Happy Friday and welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deana and special night tonight. I am here today with,
Melissa Gauthier.
and we are going to do, Melissa so graciously and kindly asked me to do, if we could do a talk here today on Magpie Times, which we have not done at all yet. It has been just sitting there, 2 issues out, 6 months in, and yeah, I haven't even thought of it. Thank you so much for thinking of this. This is a great idea. Lots of buddies logging on. It is Friday night after all. Please let me know if my fan is loud. Don't let us ruin tonight with a loud fan. But I want to welcome everybody. Happy Friday night. You made it. Uh-oh. Oh, that's not going to happen. Cheryl, great. Did that get yours started? Did Buttons get yours started over there? It's like infectious. Cheryl, great to see you. Good evening. It is a great night for a gathering. At least here in New England, the really bad heat laid off a little bit today. It's just a normal painful summer day. It's not a dangerous painful summer day. So I'm hoping you're all getting just nicer numbers right across the board today. Linda, great to see you. Linda's feeling it too in New Jersey. Thank you. Kirsten, great to see you. Greetings in Vermont. Looking forward to the evening. Me too. April, great to see you. Happy cocktail night from still steamy Illinois. Okay. Cities are always tough. That heat gets locked in there, doesn't it? There's nowhere for it to go. It needs its own cupola or something, like some kind of exhaust system happening. Judy, great to see you. Cheers, my dears, in Pennsylvania. Do a quick cheers, my dears. It's not booze yet. I'm going to switch to booze in a little while. Woo-hoo. Cheers, my dears. Carol, great to see you. Hello in Northford. Looking forward to this evening. Me too. Judy, very steamy, still there too. Oh, it is still mixed right across the board. Mom, great to see you tuning in for
Yay.
cocktail night. Great to see you. And Melissa, she says hello to you too.
Hi.
You're getting some highs in here, of course. And Maureen, great to see you. Nice Friday evening in Michigan. Joyce, hello in the Poconos. Linda H., happy cocktail night, Massachusetts. Great to see you all. Ryan, you are there. Happy Friday from North Texas. Staying cool with hard cider and cutting up magazines for collage. Oh, how fun is that? For collage work, peace and love. Oh, great. Isn't it fun to do some mixed media stuff and switch it out like that? That is so much fun. Oh, I can't wait to see what you're working on. Olivia, great to see you in Ireland. Greetings back to you. Gosh, you all look like you're having a nice night. Sally, cheers, my dears, in New Hampshire. Great to see you. In Sandy in Pennsylvania. Great to see you too. Well, I am in Hamden, Connecticut. Melissa, you're further away.
I'm in Sackville, New Brunswick, which is Canada. So Deanna and I would be 9 hours away from each other.
We're in the same time zone though, right? Or no?
No.
Are you one over?
So you are 8 o'clock? No,
7.
7.
Yep.
And it's 8 here.
Oh, it's later. It's
Yep.
later.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay. Karen logged on in Black Forest, Colorado. Great to see you. It's hot there tonight. Karen, see, you were getting that mild weather, and now maybe it shifted out there a little bit, but I'm sure it'll blow over soon, without a doubt. Hello to Melissa as well. Karen has her skinny wine ready. That sounds really good. Barbara, great to see you, buddies and Magpie. Does it get any better? It does not. It does not get any better. No, it does not. And Kaz, great to see you. Happy cocktail night in Wisconsin. And Ryan says this issue of Magpie was fabulous.
It is.
It was, and yeah, and this is what we're here to talk about tonight. But I have not said yet. I just got my copy, and I opened it live while we were on the other day. I guess that was Monday, and I haven't had a chance to say congratulations to everybody who submitted stuff, both to the first one, but to this one right now that I'm just seeing now, because even I don't know going into the issue. We move so fast, right? Because it's just Judy and I. I know whose stuff came through me, but I don't know whose stuff went through Judy, And so when I open it, for me, it's still a surprise. So huge congratulations to everybody who contributed. Everything looks beautiful, and there's some great content. Melissa, this is probably the perfect time to turn it over to you.
Sounds good. I am so excited to be with Deanna. She and I text back and forth, and Deanna's a big fan of leaving a message on Messenger, like her voice. So I do that now too. Um, but it's really nice to be able to be here with you and look you in the face. So yeah, so that's great.
That's great.
Um, and the other thing is just the publications and
Mhm.
how important they are to me, and I'm sure to everybody else. Now, my question is, I'm on a delay,
Okay.
so I can, uh, my voice, I can hear my voice, but I'm just wondering if it's bothering anybody else.
I'll wait for the answer on that. I hear you in real time. I hear you
Okay.
like you're right there across the table.
Okay.
So
Good.
for me, it's great. I'll keep an eye on the thread, and I want to say hi to Dave. Dave just logged on. I haven't seen you for a little while. At the edge of a hurricane. Oh, at the edge of a
Oh,
hurricane. Dave is outside Toronto.
yeah, it's
Uh,
bad.
oh, is it? Oh gosh, but having sausage and mushroom pasta and cold beer, well, that part's okay. No, everybody says it's fine, so I
Oh,
think
good.
it's fine. It might just be on that end, but
It's the delay. I get it. Even when I talk to my brother in Calgary, I have a delay. So
interesting. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I'll get used to it as long as you guys are okay. Um, so yeah. So to talk about the weather, Dave mentioned we've under a heat warning here in Atlantic Canada,
Wow,
and we've had a lot of destruction in Nova Scotia. So
wow.
especially the valley. So
Okay.
anybody who's on from that area or people who have family in the valley in Nova Scotia, our hearts go out to you because the flooding is atrocious.
Oh no.
Yeah, flash flooding.
Okay.
So it just, yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm so
So there's
sorry to
been
hear
some
that.
sadness come out of the valley. They are really hurting right now. Yeah,
Oh gosh,
yeah,
those poor people. My heart goes out to them too. I didn't even know this.
yeah,
Our news is being clogged up with politics. In the U.S., we're not getting that world news that we should be getting. That's
yeah,
terrible.
yeah, yeah. So, but we'll turn to our happiness tonight, and we're together tonight,
Yeah.
and we're all safe.
Yep.
So what I wanted to do actually, Deanna and Judy, if you're on,
Hmm.
is I kind of wanted to start it off by just talking about. I know roughly where the idea came from. I brought my little, remember this
Ah, that's it.
conversation? And I was able to pick one up for a pretty reasonable price. And I feel that's kind of where the seed was planted.
Yeah.
Um, so I know a little bit about that, but then you folks got together and talked it out and decided what you were going to do. So I just kind of wondered if you just talk a little bit about that whole setup, that whole beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. So coming into this because I'm still so new on the scene. Coming into this, I've always had this built-in thing where I love working on stuff together. It's just always been a thing with me since Girl Scouts. Just projects that people can do together. You're working on the same thing. You have the same goal, particularly with creative stuff. I just find that the fun doesn't just like double or triple, but it just multiplies infinitely when there's many people working on the same thing. And I think that's probably the reason that I stayed so long in college and then did grad stuff and then just didn't want to leave school because it's just so fun to be with other people talking about the same stuff and working on projects together. It's just always been something that I really love. And somehow along the way in building the Facebook group, it got big. It got big during COVID, and I just immediately felt like some kind of a war profiteer because we went huge, like right away into the hundreds and then into the thousands, and now well over 20,000. We're gaining several hundred people, sometimes 200 a day, and it's like, whoa, there's a lot of numbers here. And watching that uptick made me think, well, wait a minute. I might be at a point where I can start really relying on doing projects that if I have an idea, and given an assignment, not like a control freak, but like, it's easier to work with an assignment. If I were just to say everybody, like a gallery night, just send your stuff in. Let's hope it's cohesive. Let's hope it has a look or a feel of the season. That would be, I think, less focused, and I think less people would submit. But putting out just an idea, it is fairly seasonal because it's a quarterly publication. But it occurred to me that we were in a place with numbers where if I did put out an idea, like something like an ongoing magazine, an ongoing project that I could commit to, I felt like there was definitely a market for it, because the other two rug hooking magazines are very different. I thought it might just be feasible that people kick in and submit stuff, and we can really get this thing on the rails sooner rather than later, and get this group project going, that we can always all have it. So, some people, I think, want to submit something to every issue, and that is fantastic. That's going to be the backbone of the magazine. But it's also there for people who once in a while think like, that theme really strikes me. I have a story there and I'd love to submit. It just, to me, it fills a place in the rug hooking publishing world where there can be submissions from people who maybe wouldn't be bold enough to say, I'm going to submit to Celebration, or I'm going to send an article into Rug Hooking Magazine. I've heard that a lot, and as much as I love them and work as a partner with them, they don't always answer. And sometimes people take that as, oh, I guess my thing wasn't good enough, right? And that is not good, because it knocks you down so many pegs, you don't want to try again. I was really hoping that we would be able to, numbers wise, pool our resources and make a magazine that was more like the one you just held up, the Wall Street Journal, because that was such a friendly magazine.
Cozy.
Yeah, it was cozy. That's it. It was like approachable. It had some great stuff in it. It was like lighthearted. It had humor. It wasn't perfect, right? There was a bit of a, maybe this is the wrong word, but a bit of an amateurish feel to it, and it just felt like, God, what an effort, And as soon as I hit like a certain number, maybe it was 10 or 15,000, I started thinking, is that enough to be able to do a regular periodical, whether I'm immediately involved or not? I bet there's enough people who could kick in and make this thing happen, with or without me.
And I think the success has been the fact that you have called out for help, and we just all feel like we're a part of it.
Yeah.
And you honestly make us feel that we're a part of it. That's how I feel.
I mean, I am not the biggest part of it, and unless I will be less, and I'm always going to be a part of it. But at this moment, my goal with Magpie was to get this thing started, give it a shape. I always want to come up with themes, or at least collaborate on themes. And I always want to brainstorm and gather with other people. But for the first two issues, specifically the first issue, I did a ton of the heavy lifting, and I put like 3 or 4 full-length articles, and I had everything ready because I just wasn't sure what the response would be. So I saw the response was very good. And for the second issue, I had 2 or 3 articles kind of tapering down already, and I saw that there was a lot more. And I'm thinking to myself, I always want to put at least 1 article in, and I'm always going to put at least like 8 free patterns in, because it's still tied to the brand. But I can see that now we're actually doing cuts and holding stuff for future issues. And I don't necessarily want to do that. I want to be sure that my mouth isn't the biggest mouth in the magazine, and that there's other people who have their articles in there. They're not on long waits to get their stuff shown either. Because honestly, the quality of the writing that I've seen in these 2 issues is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, I was expecting like, yeah, that's really good. But this is like, some of these are like tear jerkers, and, the epic type stories, and lots of backstory. And it's just, there's a lot of good writers out there. And it just goes to show, it's like, build it and they will come, right? That's exactly what's happening here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit, Deana, about the format. I do have a few little notes here, just because I didn't want to be staring at you and not have any questions. And so in terms of the format, and I've just written a few things down. First of all, you and Judy have alternated in terms of the editorial comment, or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
So that's one thing I noticed.
Good catch.
And you've got your nice table of contents right at the very beginning.
Yes.
And like, it's absolutely beautiful, for one thing.
It's a high quality magazine, that's for sure.
It is. It's glossy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with Somerset.
Oh gosh,
magazine.
I used to write for them years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, it's that, this is what it puts me in mind of.
Yep, it is that kind of thing.
Somerset was my Bible for a long
Mm-hmm.
time, and
Mm-hmm.
I spent way too much money on them because they were very high. But
Gorgeous. Yeah.
still, you had
Mm-hmm.
something to go back to.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I like about this too,
Yep.
is that I have my little dog-eared pages because
Mm-hmm.
I think to myself, oh yeah, I'm going to go back and do that. And that's the whole idea, I think, of a magazine.
That's it.
Yeah. So, like for example, the Historic Gardens issue,
Yep.
like 79 pages,
Yep.
and the table of contents is right here. But I was slow to notice this one. Up on the editorial page,
Uh-huh.
we've got the magpie
Yep.
with flowers because, of course, it was the garden theme.
That's it.
But in the latest issue, there you've got
Yep.
it. It was so neat, and I thought, oh my gosh, like, and you're the same person has hooked it,
Mandy
Mandy,
Cornish. Yep, she's
and
excellent.
what a fantastic idea. Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like I really wanted, and Judy designed the magpie, right? So
Yes.
I just loved that. As soon as she
Yep.
designed that, I thought, you know what, let's over the, welcome page, have this banner that functions kind of like a yard long, right? Not exactly the dimensions of a yard long, but people do like these longer pieces you can put over a door or so. They're just an odd shape.
Yeah.
And so I did the first one, and Mandy's a very fast hooker. She's also in Canada, and she hooks only with yarn. So she got the first one done in a hurry, and then I sent this as a PDF. She got that in a hurry too. She just whipped it right up. So I'm working on the third one that I sort of hurry with but she hooks so quickly that I kind of take advantage. I know she'll have it done in a couple of days. She'll send a photo and it'll be 3/4 done. She's just so fast, but she does love hooking these, and I think it does give it a kind of continuity, that her style is fairly recognizable, and now she's
Yeah.
done 2 for 2. So as long
And
as
can
she's
you
willing
imagine? I just think when I looked at this and I figured out the pattern,
to.
it was like, you know, 10 years time, 15, 20 years time, we're going to have all these amazing magpies
I hope
hooked.
so. I hope so. I mean, we definitely plan to be here. But yeah, these patterns are great, and you just can't get to all of them in one issue.
No.
Other people are submitting them. Judy submits some, and then we have other buddies submitting
Oh,
pieces too. Patterns, which I really appreciate. Because not just that I don't, want to take the time because I'm busy. I do want to take the time. I do want to do quite a bit. But again, this is not like a vehicle for my brand. That was never what if it was, it would be called Ribbon Candy Hooking Magazine. It was never supposed to be a vehicle for the brand. It was always supposed to be something that I could do parallel and alongside all the other stuff I do. And it was something that I hoped that I would be able to build, that it could, it would be like, if for an issue or two I was, God forbid, sick or busy or doing something else, or something happened or whatever, it would go on without me, right? That's the whole idea, is that there's so many people involved now that I participate. Now I'm thinking the third issue, this is my heavy lifting issue because the last one was Judy, but I'm thinking, I already know based on the feedback from the first two and the response that there's going to be a lot of stuff that comes in, and it's all going to be great. So I'm going to do my best to get as much stuff as I can in here while I'm working on my other projects. And I feel for the first issue, I felt like 50% sure that we were going to have lots of great content and enough great content to pull off a good full-length magazine. And by the second issue, I felt like 80% sure. Now I'm like 120% sure
yeah.
that for
Yeah.
every issue, it's already coming in. Like there's already emails coming in, and
Yeah.
I'm just looking at them and going, "You've got to be kidding me! Like where did you come from? Everything looks great,
And I love so I look at the magazine and I think you've got articles that address frequently asked questions
Yeah.
with rug hooking and
Yeah.
punch needle. You've got personal stories,
Yeah.
like the two that I have put in are certainly very family oriented
Mhm.
personal stories.
And are
But
so
then
lovely.
you've got other people that write a poem.
Yep.
Some people have just put their rug in the gallery section, and I just feel like it's spread out so lovely,
Yeah.
and it would encourage anybody, I would think, to participate.
Absolutely, because it's like all levels of participation.
Yeah.
If it's just like you just have a photo and you just send in the photo, some people just send in the photo and put their name and the designer or the size or whatever, and we put that in too. So we
Yeah.
know that not everybody is up to like crafting a feature article. Like we absolutely know that, but we're so happy that so many people contribute at all different levels, and it's not like it's not like, oh dang it, they just sent like one photo. It's We're so grateful to get every single thing that we get. It immediately goes into its spot, and Judy does the technical part and assimilates
Right.
all the pieces, puts it all together. So yeah, that is I think an important point is when people think about the magazine and think like, oh, there's a new textile, specifically rug hooking magazine out there. I'd love to write something, but I don't know if I have the time. It's like, well, if you have like a great piece that you did that kind of fits the season, if not the theme, and you just write a paragraph about it, like whatever the sort of genesis of it was, why you chose it as a commercial pattern or why you designed it, that at least that's a big part of you, right? Then we know more about you than just the title of it and the size of it. And it's not required and it's not expected, but when people even do a little bit like that, it's like, you just feel like you get to know so many people in one issue, and that's the point, right? Like
Right.
connecting with other people and seeing
Definitely.
their work,
Yeah.
because this
And you see a
magazine.
name,
Yeah,
and I'll say, "Oh, I've seen that name before," or
exactly.
I'll go back, and now we've got two articles to compare,
Yes.
so you can
Yeah,
kind of look and see. Oh, yes, I remember when she put that one in, or whatever.
I
Yeah,
love that
and
part of
now
it.
the newest one,
Hmm.
I noticed this time. I don't think I'm wrong on this, but there were some that were really weren't rug hooking,
Yeah.
like the woman with the quilt,
Yes.
the one sheet quilt.
Diane
That was
Gajrain.
fascinating to me. That
That was
whole
fascinating. Yeah, I was so happy to get that article. She is actually one of my mom's best friends, and I
okay,
have known her for a while, but I wasn't sure. I didn't want to be like. She's very well known in this area, and when that happens, like she has gallery shows all the time, and I know a lot of stuff. Like once she sells it, is there's a copyright issue with showing it again and all that stuff. So I was a bit shy about asking her whether she wanted to put something in. I was a total coward, so I asked my mom to ask her. Telephone game, and I wasn't really expecting her to say yes because she is like a very well known gallery artist. But I know she's also a textile artist, and she's asked me questions about rug making, and she's an incredible quilter and painter. And she
yeah,
said, yeah. And she like very quickly turned this article around about changing photographs into these whole cloth quilts.
oh yeah,
And I mean, it's still textile. It's so interesting. It could equally the sort of principle of this article where she, most of these were taken on Cape Cod. She takes a photograph and then she turns it into a whole cloth quilt where she's painting and stuff. She was so generous about saying what she used, like what her materials were, and how to do it. Because not
I
everybody
know.
is like wants to tell the secrets. But even for people who are rug hookers, you could look at that article and say, well, you could do the exact same principle, but hook it, right? Same thing as like, yeah, they're all interchangeable. But yeah, I was pushing really hard, more and more, to get articles in here, features, longer articles that are not necessarily about rug hooking and punching. So while I always want that to be the backbone, because that's
Yeah,
my love and that's where our group is, at, I still want to keep pushing and pushing the idea that if you have a line drawing, you have every textile craft for the most part. Maybe not weaving and maybe not, Ria rug, but most crafts will follow the lines of a quite intricate line drawing. So, I
yes,
mean, for cross stitchers, you can pick it up and say, I think I can do this in my craft. And, I mean, basically any kind of textile artist could pick it up and say, I like this line drawing. I'm not a rug hooker, but I can still do this piece.
yeah,
And that whole universality or universe, I'm not sure that's a word, but the idea that this has such crossover potential is what I want to keep sharing, because we've been so sort of isolated as rug hookers, and we're always talking about rug hooking patterns and where to get them and what the right backing is. And all along, there are line drawings in crochet magazines and knitting magazines and needlepoint magazines, and they're all over the place. and we never think about those as potential designs that we could do exactly the same way.
Totally. Uh, in some of those older magazines that I had that stockpiled, and I got them out, and it was like maybe it was a cross stitch pattern, a crewel pattern. Remember when that was popular? And I was like, well, I can take that, and sometimes the drawings are like full scale.
Yeah.
So all you had to do was copy it or whatever. Yeah.
So good. It's so good. And that was one of the things, even though Wall Street Journal didn't do that, I felt like with Wall Street Journal, the predecessor, if you're joining, if a few buddies have logged on a little bit later, I want to say welcome to everybody. I'm glad you're there. Wall Street Journal, when I discovered that magazine, it reminded me of all of the craft magazines in the 70s and 80s I always loved. They were super craft. I mean, you get like pom-pom characters and popsicle characters, but then you'd also get like a cool shag rug or something to do with a needle or a lampshade or something like that. And there was something about that era of magazine with all the gridded patterns in the back and the fine print with the description of, if you don't know how to crochet at all, you can still crochet a full-size, coverlet for your bed. And there'd be pages of tiny print in the back. It somehow was also friendly and kind of pre-assumed that anybody could do anything that they were showing. And I just loved that vibe to that generation of magazines. It's very different now because we're so magazines that you pick up. I mean, I only subscribe to I think Rug Hooking Magazine, Atha, and Early American Life. I think I'm down to that. Maybe I still have Yankee, but I mean, most magazines are so advertisement heavy, and they're so hyper focused, and the ads are so perfectly matched to the magazine. There's not a lot of variety in most craft magazines now. You don't get the variety show like in paper anymore. You don't get the variety show at all anymore. And maybe that's the internet too, where you go down crazy rabbit holes, which I also love to do. But I was dying for a magazine that did a little bit of crossover and kind of piqued your interest about other stuff for those moments where you don't feel like a rug hooker and you feel like a quilter, or you don't feel like, sometimes you feel like not, sometimes you don't, right? Like, I mean, sometimes I feel like quilting or making a rug or working on a costume for Jocelyn on the sewing machine. And I wanted it to be the kind of magazine where people could submit articles that, that weren't full blast rug hooking articles. So definitely want more of that.
And I think, I worry that print is a lost art.
Yes.
There's nothing I like more than a magazine.
Yes.
Nothing more comforting to me than a magazine, last thing before bed or first thing in the morning with your coffee. So I worry about that because a lot of the magazines that I always loved, they've just gone totally digital.
Yep.
And you can't even get a copy anymore. So no, I just feel like there's great success ahead for this.
Thank you.
For sure.
I hope so.
I just wanted to check and make sure that I did want to talk about the format, and we've got the idea that it was a combination of personal stories, fiber creations, hands-on techniques.
Yep.
So I wonder if we could just have a peek at a few articles, you and I.
Let's do it.
So can we start with this one?
Yes. So I don't have a copy of that one at this moment, so we'll look at yours.
That's okay. And I dog-eared some pages, even though I know we're not supposed to. But
it's got to be used. It's got to be well used.
It does.
That's well loved.
And that was one of the first things I noticed about the first magazine was that I got was like, I'd grab it and reread an article or whatever. This morning, I just got my Midsummer Magic one 2 days ago, I think.
Okay.
In the mail, because I was hoping it would come before the show. And I read that in its entirety this morning.
Oh,
the articles
great.
were so good.
Yeah,
so
they really are good. And it was funny this time. I don't think it happened last time, but it was funny this time because you're in Canada and a lot of friends are in Canada who got the hard copy. I heard many times that there was like a lot of Canadians said the thing was marked as delivered, but I haven't gotten it. And I was starting to panic. I was like, what's going on? Because this has never happened with orders before. It was like a wave of people who said their thing was marked as delivered, and then it arrived the next day.
Yeah.
So I don't know what was up with that, but yeah, tempest in a teacup.
Sometimes I think when they say
Yeah,
it's delivered to um, the post office,
yeah.
but it's not come out for delivery.
Okay. I'm not
That's
going
what
to
I think.
worry so much about that next time because I got really nervous. There were so many, and I thought, what is going on, you know? But yeah, maybe the system changed or the routine changed or something. But it was only in Canada that that happened this time.
Maybe, maybe. Um, well, one of the ones that I loved was actually Judy
Yep.
Taylor's. I got to go back this way, don't I?
Yep.
And just the whole idea, I'm slowly falling in love with this whole idea of hooking with t-shirts,
Oh
cotton,
yeah.
that kind of thing. So just a couple of things that I underlined from Judy's article was she was so clear as to how she prepares her cotton.
Yep.
And I thought, oh, okay, so this is what she does in terms of, cutting the edges and washing everything first. Of course, I knew that, but just in how she prepares it.
Yep.
And this stripology tool that she talks about in the article. And so she definitely is a champion of using t-shirt and cotton
That's her
and
thing. Yeah.
whatnot.
That's one of
Yeah,
her big things.
yeah. And I know that she has a couple of books out with regards to that too. So I really enjoyed reading that article and that whole notion of a placeholder sometimes
Yes.
that she'll use wool, but then she'll hook what she wants to hook and pull the placeholder out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of these
So,
techniques are just universal. So
yeah,
smart. So
yeah.
good.
And so there's an example, I guess, for an article that would very technique driven.
Yes.
And if it was, really answered a lot of questions.
That's a great
Yeah.
point. That's a great
Yeah.
point. Because we're all different coming to it, but one of the great things for Judy and I to be, the fact that we're working together on this is that she's very technical and I'm not at all,
Mhm.
and that I think that creates a great balance, like the yin and the yang, because she always tends to put really handy dandy tips and stuff into her writing, and I'm just off on a bender, like quote like passages of literary whatever, and it's good to have that balance because there are the people who are very technical reading and then there are the people who are very creative, so it's good to, I think, appeal to both. But she is a great one for tips, practical tips,
Yeah.
and she's got so much experience that her voice is so useful.
Yes. So, and then another one that was very was sweet. This was by Annette. I think it's
I think so. Yep.
Schaffer. And this one,
Yes, yes,
it's the sculpting.
that was so different. Yep.
And, the fact that she'll take a log from the woods and then that already looks like mushroom on it or something, and then she'll build and build and build.
Yep. It
With,
was so
with,
different.
yes. And so just the fact that she actually hooked the
Hmm.
moss
Hmm.
and attached it to the log. And, but then those ferns and fiddleheads were so amazing.
They were so pretty and
Yeah.
whimsical.
Yeah. And that's what I love about the craft is as much as I love uh, my rugs and putting them up on the wall and all that.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm really starting to do is the 3-dimensional.
Yep.
And I love that. And I love how she presented that.
Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
great thought. And it's funny because I'm less into three-dimensional stuff. So once in a while, I feel like I'm also getting more and more into it in terms of interest. But one of the things about having a magazine as opposed to something digital, something that you can actually pick up and return to, is sometimes you see something and it doesn't immediately strike you as something that you could apply to your own work, or it doesn't pique your interest in a huge way. But with a physical copy, unlike something online, if it's online, maybe you don't bookmark it, maybe you never return to it. But if this is buried on the nightstand, you're going to have to touch it again in your lifetime.
Yeah.
And maybe when you do, you open to the same article and it didn't strike you the first 3 times, but it strikes you 2 years from now and you think, oh, wait a minute. That's the great thing is of being a bit of a hoarder and liking, physical copies of everything. You have lots to refer to. And sometimes it's not the right moment for a new idea or for that idea. And whether you like the project or not, all of the makings of like a new, something new. They're written down, right? And you can
Yes.
go to it and go, oh, I wanted to solve this problem. I think this is going to help me figure this out. So
Yes.
it's great having this great variety, because there were a few articles in both the
Yep.
first one and the second one, that I thought, this isn't really my area of specific interest, but you look at it a few times and you think, or maybe it is, it's
Or
like the
just
power of
um,
suggestion.
to make something like those little fiddleheads
Yeah.
and then attach them to somebody's gift.
Yes.
Like,
Oh,
how
yeah.
adorable.
Oh, that would be so perfect
Yeah.
as the
Yeah.
bling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be so perfect. There's so
And
many
you know
uses.
yourself with your mantle that you have at your
Yeah.
studio, so many things that you'll make or you'll attempt, like I'll do the same thing. And maybe I'll think, well, that was fun.
Mm.
I'll probably not do it again, but I'll plop it up somewhere and you walk by and you look at it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's that kind of three-dimensional stuff that I like.
It is.
Yeah.
That stuff is super fun. And
Yeah.
everything is like, everything you try is like a feather in your cap, right?
Yeah.
And you just get more and more confident the more stuff you try. If it's not your forever passion, you're thinking, oh, I would do this hack or this trick in every one of my projects. But probably not, right? Nobody's going to do everything in every project, but you can pick up a lot of other people's great ideas. And that is the thing about the magazine, is I'm amazed at how people are like, oh, well, this is exactly how I did it. Because sometimes people will pitch an article and
Yeah.
I'll think, okay, well, that's going to be a beautiful project. But then I get the article and it actually tells you exactly what they did, the names of the products they used, right? There's no secrecy, there's no fourth wall where it's like, well, this came out great. It's actually like, this came out great, and if you want to do the exact same thing, this is exactly what I did. I'm always grateful for that, right? Because it's
I,
like,
yeah.
you know,
I
pe-
kind of see that almost as a new movement, Deanna.
definitely,
Um,
definitely.
I agree with you. Certainly, when I first started, um, yeah, I agree. Like you get pictures to look at, and you
Yeah.
think to yourself, okay, I think I can figure that out, or I think I could do that. But the generosity that I see, where people will very specifically
Yes.
tell you what you need, and yeah, rather than cornering the market for themselves. Yeah.
That's it, like being in scarcity mode and thinking, oh no, well, if I tell everybody my great big secret, then I'm not going to be this special person who does this anymore. I hate that. I
Yeah.
absolutely hate that.
And I think
Because
some of that came out of COVID. I really believe that there were so many people trying out the YouTube um,
yeah, yeah,
way of doing things, and wanting to keep people busy at home and all of that. And I think maybe that where that some of that came from,
yeah,
because it's so visual. You see everything that the
that's
person
it.
does.
I think people went a little nuts with the idea of intellectual property,
Yeah.
because it's like, I'm sorry, you're showing something like with a tool, for like a hook, with a hook or a punch or whatever. People have been doing this technique for 100 and some odd years. So while your design is something special and it's all you, the things that you're showing, even though it's your video, these are not things that you invented, created, thought of, or by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
But I feel like, I love to be surrounded by people like you, who are truly creative people, who share all the time, who do tons of outreach, because I know that people who are like that, and I think it's so many of us who are in this group, right? This group is just so
Yes.
forthcoming.
Fantastic.
But people who are truly creative do not get tripped up when they feel like they tip their hand, right? And like everybody's going to copy them, because people who are truly creative will definitely think, okay, so that came a little close to my special thing, but I bet you I'm going to have another good idea tomorrow, right? 'Cause you have to think like that, because if you don't, there's no future in anything that we do,
That's right.
right? It's not your
Yeah.
last good idea.
No. Um, I want to bring up your article about the title alone got me, because I'm an English major. So as soon as I saw Jekyll and hydrangeas, I'm
Yeah.
thinking, Jekyll? Come on. So I went down a pretty
Oh,
deep rabbit
I'm
hole,
sorry.
but no. And so I wondered if you'd speak to that a little bit,
Yeah.
Deanna. I know your passion is, rug hooking, but
Yeah.
I also know you love your history,
I
right?
do. I love history
And
and literature.
so I
Yeah.
wondered if you'd speak to that article, because the pictures, everything that I read was so interesting, and even the project
Yes.
that went
I
with it.
so wish I was so angry with myself. I should have grabbed it at the studio the other day because that was a quilting project. That would
Yeah.
so that project was super special to me. I have this thing about this woman called Gertrude Jekyll. And this is the same Jekyll of Jekyll and Hyde, right? The correct pronunciation is Jekyll, but we've gotten
Okay.
very many iterations of it through the years. Her family goes back to like the who wrote Jekyll and Hyde? Come on, um,
Just a sec now. Robert Louis Stevenson,
thank you. No, is
right?
it? No, no,
I
no.
don't have my phone on, Deanna.
I turned mine off too. It'll come to me. It better not be at 3:13. Um, but yeah, I can't believe I can't think of that. That's absolutely crazy. Jekyll and Hyde. Jekyll and Hyde. Somebody's going to say it. In any case, anyway, the families knew each other, right? And they intermarried and whatever. And she is a Jekyll of that line. But she was a she was a Victorian era spinster, and you know, being a spinster at that time was not a great state of affairs because it made you fairly useless, particularly if you were in the upper class, right? So the best that she could do for herself, was she was super independent, was get a lot of education and specifically art education. And she was very keen on hand embroidery and sewing. And she did a lot of that and started writing books and projects on different kinds of embroidery and long stitch. And she loved it. And then her hands started to have like an arthritis kind of a thing, and she just couldn't anymore. It struck her early, and the doctors couldn't help her with physical pain in her hands. So she still wanted to do something creative, and she turned to gardening. And you know, she had a huge family place, and she just started to um, think creatively about flower beds, and took a took a major detour. Hold on, let me just see. Robert Louis Stevenson, good one. I should you're much more literary than I am. Good
Well, it was a
job.
little out of sync for him too, right?
It
Because he
was.
read he,
Isn't he Treasure Island too?
I think so. Yeah, so I can remember, yeah, like reading that novel and
That was
watching the
wackety.
movie, and it
Yeah.
seemed so out of character for him.
Yeah, I mean, heavy drug references and yeah, just
Mm-hmm.
cultural overtones that
Mm-hmm.
were super dark, mental illness, and yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, we'll stop that. But interesting. Yeah, you know, and the thing with Gertrude was that what was so interesting for me with her was her beginning and how she did like the lemonade out of lemons thing when she started to lose her ability to work with her hands. You know, she's coming out of a culture of upper class British culture, the Grand Tour, and she's seen Italian gardens and French gardens and formal gardens. And while the English garden has always been a bit separate and different and more wildflower based, a bit more organic, she is coming out of like a culture and a class of people who really do appreciate a formal garden. And she somehow gets it in her head to kind of mix and match flower beds in one space like it's fabric, like she's weaving in different colors. She's got crazy clashes of colors and heights. And to be honest, like just reading about her, because she wrote so many books on gardening, right? And I reference a few of them in that article. She wrote so many books on gardening. They've all been reprinted with gray covers. You find them in used bookstores. They're also in new bookstores. They're everywhere. But you know, she talks so specifically about how she plans her gardens and the way she describes them in her books. She uses black and white photography, and of course, you don't
Yes.
see the garden, but the way she describes it, it's just like she just went so far out on a limb with this vision of like this wild, chaotic color, and the idea of almost sculpting a piece of the lawn with different heights and different colors, and this thing in the front and this thing in the middle and this thing behind, and then if you walk around it, it's a different experience altogether. And I thought, man, she was like way ahead of her time, the
Mm.
way that she thought and the way that she really cornered this market, this new style of gardening, where she would put, talk about being forthcoming, she would put all these illustrations into her books that were like a god's eye view looking down with all of these circles, and she would say what plant or flower would be in the circle, and she was so knowledgeable about which ones were good together, like putting fish in fish tanks. Like sometimes it's not good, but she knew which ones were going to overtake others, or
Yeah.
ruin the visual appeal of. She was so good at matching colors, popping colors, planning for different heights, and she became such an academic at that. And for someone who was like, not super well, she was always on the ground, crawling around with her Victorian dresses on, digging stuff up, changing her mind. And I mean, she did so many gardens in her lifetime. She's such an important person to gardening. But reading about her and just thinking about her life and what a character she was, because she was also a bit irreverent and naughty and funny, and she seemed like she would be someone great, like just sitting down at the table tonight, and just having a lot of fun with. She did so much good academic work and scholarship in her field in her lifetime, and it wasn't her first choice. And I think that in itself is a great takeaway from a life, that maybe it's not your first choice. Maybe things don't go your way, but
That's
isn't
right.
it amazing how you can
Strong
spin
woman.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's not like
Reminds me,
destiny.
she put me in mind of Bee Potter a little bit.
Yes.
Beatrice
Also,
Potter.
yeah.
But I also thought of Henri Matisse too,
Yeah.
and how he had to change gears.
Turn on a dime, right? You have
Yeah.
another physical handicap, and you have to turn on a dime, or
Yeah.
you roll over and die.
Yeah.
Though you have two choices, and sometimes the roll over and die is very tempting, but
The easiest thing to do.
it is, yeah. But yeah,
When I looked at this, the drawings that you included, or
yep, from her
those
books.
cats. Well, I'm a cat person anyway, but my gosh, how dear were those, eh?
I mean, she was a huge cat person, so she loved making these whimsical flowers that had like cat's paws and cat's faces, and it was one of the fun things that she did. But look,
She'd be good to do for a design like.
she would,
Yeah.
yeah, she really would. Because you think like, how interesting could garden design be, right? Particularly if you're not a gardener, like I'm not a gardener, but I'm telling you, looking at all of her illustrations, they really are different, and they all have different feels, and they all have different shapes. And the thing that it put me in mind of when I was looking through all these books and working on the article was my collection of silk ties, many of which are floral. And I thought, oh, wait a minute, like if these drawings could have been in color, they would probably look like some of these ties, right? Like red with a little bit of blue, or orange with a little bit of purple. And if I could lay them out side by side, every one of those circles is a cut up piece of tie that I put, onto ironed onto a interfacing, double-sided interfacing, right? And stuck it onto a pieced 100% cotton backing that I just organically did. The backing was actually much bigger when I started the project, and then I thought, this is out of control. And she became like dwarfed by her surroundings. And my mother painted her in the middle,
That
incidentally.
is adorable.
Yeah, I really wanted something of my mom's in here too. So she painted her on canvas. And
Okay.
she's based on one of her pictures, but with a flower basket and a little bit of a fancier hat on. But I was really happy to get something that my mom made. Equally, she could be hooked. This whole thing could be hooked with the circles.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
When you look at the pattern at the back.
Yeah, the pattern is just lines.
Oh, wait, no. I have the packet.
Oh, right. The first one was packet. Second one, it's in the grid.
That's right.
But it's also downloadable online if you have the issue.
Right.
You can just go
I
and
thought
print it.
how dear that would be, but I'd kind of like to try your quilting method.
Yeah, it was so fast. I mean, it was
Yeah.
incredibly fast. I cut out random circles, and then I looked at the shape and cut sort of the same shape with the double-sided interfacing, and warmed it right onto the thing, and then stitched it down. It went very, very fast, and I did a
And
video
how
on
did you
that.
get your mom's painting? What did you do there,
That's
Deana?
that's just a piece of canvas. So
Okay.
that's just like a piece of canvas from like a piece of fabric. It's just fine canvas.
Okay.
So I happen to have fine canvas because I used to stretch canvas and do stuff for Somerset Studio. I still have tons of yardage of
Okay.
canvas. So
Okay.
I cut a piece of that for her. But equally, you could go to a big box craft store and literally take one of their cheap canvases off the frame,
And cut it out.
cut it
Yeah.
out, and just paint on it, or stitch onto it, embroidery, or do whatever you want to do, because that line drawing of Gertrude is in there. And
Yeah.
and the thing about this design is, you don't have to do the circles the same way. I randomly did the circles, right? I was sort of looking at the way that she laid stuff out, and I started with copying one of her gardens exactly. And then I lost interest in that because I thought, this isn't even really true to her spirit, right? It's like she didn't even work this meticulously. So after I got some of it in, I just started picking up pieces. I finished all my ties like an assembly line, and then I would just pick up a little round piece of a tie and say, oh, okay, well, I don't have any yellow here, so let me put the yellow there and stitch it on, and first tack it down with the iron and then stitch it on. And I was kind of like matching colors as I went, and it was so relaxing and
I bet it
fun,
was.
because it just picking and choosing pieces that were already there. That it really went. It was a very, very fast project for such a large project.
Right.
Yeah. So
And what would you use that for yourself personally, Deanna?
I would just put it up on the wall as a hanging. I mean, it's really pretty.
Okay.
I would stretch it. Maybe I would staple it, just staple it over stretcher bars, which could include going to a craft store and getting a large piece that it fits on, and literally just stretching it over. And if that's the idea you want to do, and you go to see what sizes the canvases are that you have to choose from, and maybe your Gertrude is not the right size, you just take out the sewing machine, right, and sew on like 2 more strips until it is the right size, and staple it behind, so there's
Right.
no framing, matting. You don't have to do any of that stuff. It looks so pretty just up on the wall with all of
Yeah.
those ties, right?
Yeah.
Or t-shirts or anything,
Yeah. The tie thing was really appealing to me. Uh, yeah, that was a great idea. And I
Thank
guess
you.
that's something that I admire in you is your ability to, as you say, that wasn't the spirit that you wanted in that piece to just copy one of her gardens.
Yeah.
So then that's what you did,
Yeah.
with your piece. And certainly, I just thought, I mean, that spoke to me immediately, that
Yeah.
piece.
It
So
has
thanks
to
for
make sense.
talking about that article because as
Sure.
soon as I saw the name, I thought, oh, I got to find out a little bit more about this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's a great person.
Yeah.
She's so good to read about, and there's biographies and things about her too. She's
I
such a great
bet.
person.
Oh, amazing.
Hmm.
Some of these women, I tell you.
I know what lives they had. We always think people who came before us had boring, dry, black and white lives, and they really didn't.
No. It puts me in mind, too, and I wasn't going to mention this because I can't remember her name, but I know that the author of the book that I read, her name was Molly Peacock.
Yes.
I remembered that name.
Yes.
And it was this woman, can't think of her name right now, who started her life over again at like 60.
I
'cause she
remember.
was a
Yep.
widow,
Yep.
and she did collage, which is, Ryan, you might be interested in looking her up. I can't think
That's
of her
it.
name right now. But she did like flower collage,
Yes.
and it looked so much like real flowers. It was amazing.
Yep. Yep. No, I know exactly who you mean, and I know the book too, because when you posted it, I went, "Oh, I forgot about that."
That's right. It's
Yeah.
got a beautiful cover.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Yep.
Yeah. So that's what, as soon as I read that article, I was thinking, oh, it's just like
Yep.
this one.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. It is a lot like that. It's very
Yeah.
similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, one of the things I'm looking for Magpie 3 along the same lines is an article on flower pounding. Flower pounding has been a really big thing lately. There's been a lot of classes, offered on flower pounding. It's basically just pounding flowers into a backing, whether it's paper or fabric, until you have basically the photo image of the flower because
Yeah.
you've pounded it. I mean, I feel like it's so useful for quilting, for rug hooking, not as much, but for quilting and for different kinds of fiber arts, you could really incorporate it into a piece in so many different ways. I think it's such a nice way to immortalize flowers. Like, besides just having them be dead between the pages of a book, it's such a nice
Yeah.
way to keep them alive and keep looking at them.
Yeah.
Same kind of idea.
Now, one thing that came out in the newer magazine,
Yep.
well, I know it didn't come out per se, but I just mean that there were a number, including yours with Widow Wreath, where you hooked into a woven background.
Yeah.
Now, I know we've talked about that before, different times, where you can hook into anything. I know
Yes.
we've had that conversation.
Hmm.
The little crab, you had done that.
Yep.
but somebody else had two. I can't remember who it was right off the bat.
Hooked into wool or a different
Hooked
backing?
into another piece, like hooked into a woven background.
Yep.
And can you talk a little bit about that? Because obviously there would be the fear for me of ripping the fabric.
Yes. You know what? Let me grab that piece. I forgot I was going to grab that. Cover me for 1 second. It's right in the
Okay.
next room.
Cheers.
Cheers, my dears.
Cheers, my dears. See, I've always wanted to say that.
Hey, can I get a drink? All right, here we go. Now, Melissa, I'm glad you brought this up because this is one of the pieces in the magazine that I probably gave a dark photo, but it came out so dark in the photo, and I was disappointed because it's not a dark piece at all. So this is the piece we're talking about,
Right.
and I'm gonna walk through the question, but there's text that's hooked into plain rug hooking wool, and this is an Anise Nin, right, the erotica writer, and this is an excerpt. I'm restless. My hair is being pulled by the stars again. So I'm quite close to the camera, but this is a big oval frame, right? This is a big Victorian frame. And I've literally got that kind of bluish, mottled bluish brownish wool in the background. And I've hooked the text in different colors of pink acrylic yarn. So, oh, thank you so much. I was dying for that. So what I did was many things. You can hook into many things, but you can't hook into everything. So, and you can't even hook into all wool, right? It's really going to depend. Most milled wool you can, but if it's like a braiding weight, you might not be able to. So the thing is, if you're thinking you want to do a project where you hook directly into wool, you want to just carefully put it over your frame or in your hoop and just try it. That's the only way to be sure. Just try it. Try it with a fine. I hardly ever use a fine hook, but in this case, you need a fine hook because it's tight, right? The wool is tight. So, you would do it the way you would do any other kind of hooking. And obviously, if your loop stays, you're good, right? Because if it's working, it's staying just the same as with anything else. The possibility of ripping it is definitely higher. So, a couple of things about hooking text like this. It is a bit more scary. It is a bit more touch and go. And this feature also has these crocheted flowers, right? I did a ton of
Sweet.
crocheted
I wish I could
flowers.
crochet.
Well, I did a video. I don't know if I posted it yet. I should check and see if I ever posted it because there's no formula to these flowers. These are just ruffles. So I'm literally just doing a chain and increases and increases and increases, and then I'm sewing it together like in a circle. So there's absolutely no skill. It's like a two-stitch thing. But each one I did it sloppy and different, so they all are different heights and different weights. But the thing about hooking into plain wool is that how do you get your design onto the wool, right?
Yes.
So I mean, this is the thing. If it's like white wool, you have half a chance of getting a transfer pattern on there. I don't know that I would want to transfer like with a Sharpie, even though they're not supposed to bleed and they're supposed to be permanent. They can bleed, right? I don't know that that would be one of the options I'd really be happy about. And you, depending on the color, you might be able to do a ink transfer pen, like iron transfer heat. But the chances are with wool, at least rug hooking wool, it's probably not going to come out. Or it's going to come out so faint that even as a guide, it's not very useful. I can't remember. I think I put it either in the article or the video, how in the end, I think what I ended up doing in the end, because this is an in-between color, the blue, it's neither light nor dark. I tried using like sewing pencils that were chalk pencils.
Yeah.
Didn't come out dark enough. So this is text. It had to be a little bit on, right? I needed the spacing to be fairly legible. I think what I ended up doing was doing my classic fiber tape and just doing it letter by letter, even part of a letter with the finest Sharpie permanent ink, the super fine tip, not the fine tip, the super fine tip.
Right.
I was so careful, and then as soon as it was down, I used another one, just tiny, tiny, tiny line, and I hooked as I went along because I didn't want to be covered with ink and dragging ink. It's tricky when you're hooking into wool to transfer the design. So that is the first challenge. And the second part of that, it's like the good news and the bad news. The good news is the backing is done, right? It's the wool, right? So that looks beautiful. That's done. The bad news is the transfer. You're going to have to find the right method of transfer for that project and for that wool.
Right.
And the second part is while you're doing it, you really can't pull out. I mean, if you pull out more than a little bit, it's going to be big gaping holes, and you cannot close them again. It's not going to fall back into place like backing fabric wovens do. It's going to stay a giant ripped hole.
Right. And
So,
with the crab, the little one at
yes,
Jocelyn,
yes, I forgot I did that one that way too.
you did that one that way. That would be a little easier though, right? Because the shape was more organic.
That one was easier. Yeah,
Yeah.
that one was easier. If they come in, I'll grab that one again. But yeah, Jocelyn drew that, and I felt bad not putting that in because she just drew a cute crab with holding a hooked rug on rug hook on top of it, and I thought, yeah, and I put it in my other oval frame because I had
love
a
that.
bunch of I had a bunch of Victorian oval frames that I happened to have in the garage, and I had them all on deck, on call for this project. And when I used the largest one for this, I thought, oh, you know what? I could do Joss's frame. Joss's crab took me about 2 hours to do because it was so fast. It was a small piece, and I was hooking again into wool. It was like a plaid wool, and hooking yarn directly into it. A lot less pressure there. I think in that case I just drew the stencil or whatever, and I just traced around it, and it was
Okay.
such a simple line that I wasn't
Yes.
that worried about it as much as I would be with letters.
Yeah.
And I was hooking, I think I was hooking yarn again, and I can't remember if that was yarn or if that was wool strips. It must have been. It could have been either.
I liked how that dropped in. That was in the gallery section,
Oh,
wasn't
was
it?
that in the gallery? Okay, that's a perfect.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, probably. Gosh, let me see. There's the
In
first
the
one.
the
Yeah.
drawings at the back, folks.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
that is a way better. Yeah, Judy was asking me up until I received the magazine whether I liked having the graded drawings in the magazine, and I more than was happy with that. I didn't like not having them in, not just because it was incredibly stressful, expensive, and time consuming to make small booklets to put them in magazines after the fact. I definitely did not have the time or the nerve to do that so quickly. But oh yeah, there he is in the gallery. He's with another pattern piece. Yeah, yeah, that's all yarn I did with that crab, Jocelyn's little character. But yeah, this something like this, when if you screw it up a little bit, right? There's so much more wool around it. As long as you don't screw up the perimeter, you're good. But yeah, two of the same technique in the book. I guess I was just on a bit of a roll. But
And there's another one too. It's at the beginning. I'm pretty sure
okay, let me see.
that maybe she attached it to the. Here it is.
Let's see.
Page
which one?
23.
Yep. Let me go.
Jessica Troyer
Yes. Oh God, is she amazing? Yep.
is now.
Yep.
Look at that, Deana. Did she attach it?
She
to the
attached
back,
it,
or did
yeah.
she hook into it?
Nope. She attached that.
Okay.
Yep. So she hooked it and then she sewed it on.
And what a lovely idea! I thought
Yeah, I'm 90% sure that's what she did.
with the hoop.
Yep. That is a gorgeous thing. Incidentally, she's working on another incredible article on needle felting. She's a fairly new rug hooker, and it is just amazing to me how she's done so much original work immediately. She came out of the gate, Jessica. She came out of the gate designing her own patterns. And if you remember from gallery nights and stuff like that, her mom was very sick, and there was a lot of sort of heavy family stuff happening. She started kind of recording that, and it was a very, I think, therapeutic thing, working out family stories and locking pictures in her head, being able to capture them in a hooking form was super handy and helpful, at that moment. And then she immediately went on to start evolving a series of rug designs that were still based on the family. It was like family mythology, right? Family's like very, very tight with her. There's so many stories that she's got, and she has been telling one after the other in hooked rug form. And I just find it amazing when someone starts at this kind of speed, doesn't like sort of take doesn't have any kind of time to warm up. She's just in at 0 to 100 and evolving her own style, trying different techniques with each new piece. It's just amazing to me. To me, that's obviously someone who was made to do this craft, right? Like much more than me. She just jumped in, took it over, started making pieces that were her own, doing her own designs, trying new techniques on every single piece. It's like, man, that really, and that brings me to one of these comments. Let me catch up on the thread for a second because a few people have made some great comments.
Sure.
Hold on, let's see. Let me come back up here. What's going on? Wait a minute. Don't do this. There we go. There we go. Okay. Yeah, let me catch up for a second because we got some great comments. Lots of buddies logged on. Melissa, there's tons of friends on right now. Purple Beck, hi from Northern California. I meant to say hi, so I'm going to read some of your comments. Super welcome to you. It's great to see you. And Lena, great to see you. Colleen, great to see you. So Purple Beck wrote and said, who else agrees that we should have more magazines about that? Yes. And then you wrote, I tried different hobbies. None of them really worked out so far. Latch hooking is your favorite. See, that's great to know too.
It is.
You know,
Yeah.
Also, sorry, hope you didn't see up my skirt just there. Sorry about that. It's hard to get comfortable. Just like a gymnast in here. That's where it's worth mentioning that I did put the shout out for the upcoming Magpie, the country fair. I did put the shout out for rug latch hooking stuff because I felt like while you don't see a lot of hooked rug stuff at country fairs, you still see a lot of latch stuff. Of course, we want both, but I do want to continue to celebrate latch hook as a equal rug form with a higher pile, right? I mean, we have trash talked latch hook to death for 30 years, and it's definitely time to say, listen, it's the same thing with a higher pile, right? It depends on how you do it and what materials you use. So I'm glad to hear you say that you are loving latch hook, and I'd love to see some of your latch hook pieces. And remember, everybody on the thread tonight, remember, you can always submit. Oh, this is important. If you think of it, you can always submit to me at ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com. But if it's for Magpie, and you can write this down, I'm going to say this 1,000 times in the next month, I'm sure. I created an email address that was just for Magpie Times called Magpie Times Magazine @gmail.com. Because is it incredible that the name Magpie Times @gmail.com was already taken? It's like, I'm sorry, who has that? Who has? But I did Magpie Times Magazine. So you can always send directly there, and I'm trying to get people to shift and do that so that everything is centralized in one place and not part of it with Judy and part of it with me.
Good idea.
Not a big deal, but if you're submitting and you're just catching us for the first time, Magpie Times Magazine @gmail.com is the best address because then it's separate from all the ribbon candy hooking stuff and the gallery night stuff. Yeah, but it's great to hear about different things that people have tried. Judy Phillips also said, I've just dabbled in latch hooking a little bit, but I really like it as well. Looking forward to getting better at it. Yeah, I love these side conversations because I agree. You know, latch hook is so adaptable. I mean, it has the higher pile, right? So you have to be careful about what you're hooking. But if you think about latch hooking stuff with your leftover yarn from rug hooking, not necessarily like the pre-cut acrylic stuff, we're talking about a different craft altogether, you know?
This is just come out of left field, but
Yep.
that's okay. Like, it happens. But I saw a comment. It wasn't on our family, our Facebook page.
Yep.
But it was on another rug hooking page.
Yep.
And they talked about the fact that they had gotten the Claire Murray pattern.
Yep.
And they found it a little difficult to hook through the burlap.
Okay.
And I wondered if it was an old pattern, Deana, or something.
I
Because,
think
you know, sometimes if you've got your burlap gets a little brittle.
Yeah.
If it's burlap.
it could be. I don't know for sure. But I do talk to Claire once in a while. I think they still print, because they are printing their patterns in their kits again. I think they're still on burlap.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. That's a great thing to bring up. If you remember, Claire is one of those rare people who doesn't use a frame or, right, she because all of her pieces are large. None of them are a normal size. They're all at least like large welcome mat size. She is always wrapped around her legs and looked down and hooked on her lap.
Yeah.
So she likes the burlap. It's very forgiving. her brand yarn is super, super pretty, but it is on the thicker side.
Okay.
So yeah, it is. It can be a little bit. It can be a little bit tricky.
Yeah, all I said
Hmm.
was they just, somebody said they had a difficulty pulling it up,
Yeah.
and I just wondered if they needed a bigger hook or some such thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe they needed to make the hole bigger with their hook.
I think there's a couple. I mean, I would love to see their just a still photo of their hand doing it, because
Mm,
there's like 10 different things that could be happening in those. It's a great thing to bring up, right, for beginner hookers too. The one thing that is sure to fix that is assuming that it's stretched tight in a hoop or a frame, assuming that it's ready to go and you've given yourself every advantage by stretching it quite tight. Assuming all that is in place, the one thing that you can be sure will fix that is one of the hooks that gets fatter, right? Like a Miller hook or a Hartman hook, where the tip is the little tip. You don't want
yeah.
a giant tip on your hook, because
No.
that's hard to punch through, and that gets to your hand and your wrist, right? It's just too hard to keep punching it through. So you want the hook to be a good, small, manageable size that will easily go through your backing. But then if it's kind of graduated and it gets bigger, like an hourglass, it makes a much bigger hole for you, right? So unfortunately, those hooks are the most expensive types of hooks, the Millers and
Mm,
Hartmans, right? We're talking about a 70 to 90 something dollar hook.
yeah.
Um, but in a quick fix, right, if that's not an issue and you otherwise love it, that will always fix that problem, particularly with burlap, because burlap has no stretch at all.
No, it
Burlap
is
is great,
tougher.
and yeah,
Yeah.
it's got great pluses, right? It's less expensive.
Yeah.
It has a very historic feel to it, but it doesn't have great stretch, and it is a bit scratchy. So people coming to the craft for the first time can be really put off, by using some of those vintage patterns.
Yes. Yeah. So, uh, and somebody else mentioned the same thing. We just gave her some advice in terms of how she was pulling the yarn up, but that was a sidebar.
Yeah,
So,
and sometimes it's that the yarn is too thick and the hook is too small. They've
mm,
got like too fine a hook and too thick a piece of yarn or too thick a strip, and then they're pulling it up and it's ripping in the middle, or they're only getting part of it and they're pulling like one hair through and the rest is
right.
stuck, and then it's like, oh, I wasn't, I'm not cut out for this, and it's usually that the hook is too small. And in those cases, I say to someone, if you're just starting, you have that kind of problem where it seems to you, you diagnose the situation and say, I can't really pull it up because it's not grabbing the whole piece, whether it's yarn or wool or whatever. It's not really grabbing the piece, it's more making a hole through it and shredding it on the way up. If that's the case and you're thinking maybe the hook is too small, in those cases just switch to a crochet hook, just to see, right? Crochet hook isn't usually the most efficient, but if you already have a crochet hook and you can just work on the problem for a little while and say, okay, well, this is the problem, but I could get a hook that works a little bit better for this craft.
Right.
But at least then you've got, it's like a second opinion on a diagnosis, like this is the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, so we talked about different types of articles in the magazine.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to this was a nice one, and it's called Mindful Crafting by Kelly Wright. And
Yes.
it's, again, I know she has from reading, she's a teacher, she's a
Yeah.
certified yoga therapist, different things. It's on page 4041.
Yep.
And I just wanted to bring it forward as one of those articles that talks about the rug hooking craft as uh, a way to find yourself
Yeah.
and mindfulness, and to take the stress of the day off.
Yeah.
And that, I don't think that can be said enough. What a powerful craft it is just for that, because the stitch, once you figure out what's good for you, is so simple.
It is. It's just the
Yeah.
one. It's just
Yeah.
pulling up loops.
Yeah.
And then it's just
Yeah.
a question of variety and what you're making.
Yeah. Yeah. So I brought that one to light just because she does talk about how it helps her center
Yeah.
center herself.
Yeah, I was so happy. She wrote with this idea for the first one, and I was really sorry that we couldn't get it into the first one, because I'm sure you noticed the second one is much longer. It's more than 20
Yeah.
pages longer. So we were so scared with the first one, about cost, right? Because it goes back to the conversation you said earlier in the episode. It would be nice to have more magazines out there, more physical magazines out there. There's not a lot, in a lot of beloved magazines have gone completely to digital because it's expensive. It's really expensive. This magazine is as much to produce as any book. So, like my Design Like book that just came out, in the book before, this is as expensive or more than those books. So we get, we're worried about sticker shock. We're worried about huge loss, particularly with these early ones. Personal loss, because unlike other magazines with lots of advertising, the editors and publishers are getting some help money wise. This is just an incredible expense to put out, and we were scared with the first issue. When people say to you, oh, this many pages, and we promise it's full color, we promise it's whatever the right weight is for the cover and the pages, and we promise all that's right, and if you do this many pages, it costs this much per issue, and this many pages cost. And it's like, we were so scared with that first issue that we were thinking, okay, so this is what you said, and we have it in writing. But you know how sometimes you go to the doctor and you think your insurance covers like the whole thing, and then you get a bill for like $4,000. It's like, we were thinking of those kinds of moments. So we were so scared. We wanted to keep it. We were told the cutoff was at 80. So the back cover makes 80 pages. So for the first one, we really kept it at that. We were scared. And as a result, Kelly's article wasn't quite done, and it didn't go into the first one. So I was absolutely determined that we would get it into the second one, because, as you say, it's an article about state of mind, place of mind, being able to use this particular craft as a way to relax, work out your thoughts. She does have this great spiritual energy, but she's a great teacher of physical things too, like yoga. She's really a mind and body person. She's not like a hot mess like me. So somebody like her, it's like a great curiosity to read her article. Because it's like, whoa, there are people who are like super well in their minds and have everything working, right? She's got time for crafts, she's got time for fitness, she's got time for like mental awareness, and it's like it's just a great reminder. Not everybody's in a place where this is like super useful for them at this moment. For me, it's like I'm half looking over there to see if the kids are dressed and are about to come onto camera. So sometimes this isn't for me, but there will be a day when I read this and I go, this all makes sense and it's super useful. I'm very happy that it's here. And she was such a lovely person too.
It's just something to, pardon the pun, be mindful of.
Yes. Yes.
Some days a person has it together better than others, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. You can't.
But I'll always look.
Yeah.
There'll never be a day goes by.
Yeah.
That I won't pick up my hook.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
That's a good constant. That's a good constant. I had that with my diary, and I've been writing in my diary since I was like a young teenager. And I realized earlier this year I stopped writing in my diary for months, and for no reason. It was one of those. I mean, this is awful because I broke a pattern of like my whole life. And I didn't for a couple of days because I was busy and frantic and crazy and unhinged. And then I noticed and I wrote one day, and then it happened again, and then it happened again. And the other night I picked up my diary and I realized like there was a whole season that I hadn't written, and I thought, this is not good. I mean, who cares, right? Who's probably ever going to read it? The kids don't probably. Maybe they'll be interested in remembering what we did, through the winter and whatever, when I'm gone. But it kind of broke my heart that I had this great practice of doing this one thing every day, and then for no particular reason I just completely got so sloppy and derailed that I just didn't, and I didn't fix it. I just kept going with this bad habit of looking at my phone in bed instead. Yeah. And it's good to catch yourself when you do stuff like that, because is it good? I mean, I'm going to say for each person it's different, and every night it's different. Like I might need to shop on Temu tonight, and I might need to use my phone in bed, but I don't think it's good every night to be staring at a screen as you fall asleep. You do get crazy dreams, and I think it affects, I mean, I certainly don't know, I'm not a doctor, but it's sad to let go of little rituals and routines that you do that make you and make the day have a shape. Right, because you start taking away little things because you're busy or whatever, and you realize in a weird way you're undermining yourself, right? Because that's part of you, the fabric of your day, So Yeah, this is a great mindfulness is a great it's something I'm trying to. It's hard to not make puns, but I'm trying to be more mindful of. And this is her article was the perfect thing, so different. And she's a crafter too, so in the article, she is crafting and working on her
Yeah.
projects,
Yeah.
but she's relating it to her life and her practices, and they
Yes.
are universal and accessible, I think, to most people.
Yes.
And she's great.
Another cute little one. I just thought this was so dear. It's one page and it's called Dad's Toys.
Yes, I love that. I love
Isn't
that.
that dear?
Mandy
And what a
Cornish.
fantastic idea to
Yeah.
remember her father by.
That's right. That he used
Yes.
to make these little things,
Yeah.
the little jigsaw things, and then
Yeah.
yeah. So this is Mandy Cornish, who also does the headers for Magpie at the beginning of the
Oh,
magazine.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
she has all these little jigsaw things that her dad used to make years ago, like little ornaments, and she used them as stencils, and she made this cute little rug. And she turned them all into the idea. Let's make it into like a pull toy, right? It's just a
Yeah.
vehicle for having them all in one composition, but it's a great idea, like a little train. And I agree with you. It's a one-page article. It's super, super, super cute.
So such a sweet, and that's what I love about the magazine is
Yeah.
that you can have lengthy articles.
Mhm.
And if I'm before bed, if I take the magazine before bed, maybe I won't read the longer ones. I'll do the little short ones.
Yeah.
And that's just enough for me to be, well, I just get ideas, but winding down for the day.
Yeah.
And then I'll go back in the morning and read the longer articles. So that's another plus for the magazine for sure.
That's a big plus.
Yeah.
That's a big plus. And it makes me think about. I mean, it's so. I think we're all a little bit older, right? There's probably nobody logged on who's 12 or 15 or something like that. But it reminds me of years ago, just a different time in a different life, not that long ago. I always went to bed like looking at catalogs, like clothing catalogs and stuff, and because there'd be like 20 catalogs that showed up in the mail every day. And when I was younger, I used to love going through the pages, and I would fox the edges of the page and have it in my head like, oh, I don't know how, but in the near future with my waitressing job, I'm gonna make enough money to buy everything that I marked, right? And then you end up throwing out the magazine because it's like out of season, and I didn't actually have money to buy anything that I marked. But it was just the idea. It was so fun to dream at night about things that you liked and things that were pretty and things that you wanted. And having a physical magazine to be able to sit with and do that was a great way to end the day.
Oh, I can remember Better Homes and Garden magazines and looking at houses and just thinking.
And floor plans on houses.
Oh,
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
A huge part of my life. And it's still whatever stress that I have in the day.
Yeah.
A magazine will bring it up, like it'll just bring me down.
Yeah.
Right.
It's such an anonymous way to like read ideas and read what other people are writing, and some of them you can use for your own life, right? Because you built a house with floor plans, right? Some of them you end up using in the end.
Yes.
And that is so exciting. It's stuff.
It is
stuff to dream about. That's what everybody needs is stuff to dream about.
It's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
My aunt always says,
Yeah.
it's nice to have something to look forward to.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. What else is there, right? What else
Yes.
is there? Because if we had to be satisfied with now, I mean, now is great, right? And I know there's all these quotes and memes that are like, oh, to really enjoy life, enjoy now.
Yeah.
But it's like, I agree with that to a certain extent, but at the same time, if I can't be thinking about our next weekend trip or my next project that I'm going to bring and what colors I'm going to use, to me, that's real happiness. I love now, but I love thinking about the next thing too.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
You have to have something to look forward to. And, even if it doesn't happen, like I'm okay with that too.
Yeah.
But it's just to be able to, I always like to plan.
Yeah. And looking at magazines, looking at other people's articles and ideas, they give you ideas to be able to copy, right? To say, oh, I want to do the same thing or the same exact project. Sometimes we have so many ideas, right? And a huge to-do list and all. Sometimes we have none. There's just no ideas, and you can go 10 years without any ideas. You need other people's ideas and their good energy to get you going on projects when you're just not feeling it. It's hard to feel it most of the time. Let me hop back again one more time because we had a few questions
Okay.
Dave wrote that great quote. I think you're talking about Gertrude Jekyll, where you said, "Well-behaved women seldom make history." Can't recall who said that. Who did say that? Is that like an Oscar Wilde or something? Well-behaved
Actually, it
women,
might be.
something like that. I think. I feel like it's a man at least. That's another one we'll have to look up. I wonder if somebody answered that. Veronica, oh, good to see you. And Karen said, "Do you want to create a latch hook design?" Yes, I do. Yep. Or Karen, even better if you do, because I always like other people's designs in there. But let me know what you prefer. I would love to see some latch in this one. And also, Rhea, that's right. Karen has in the past mixed, had done Rhea rugs, so using a latch hook into linen, which seems like it would. I was amazed when she did this and that it actually worked. It seems like an impossible combo using a latch hook in a soft linen backing, but it worked great. And she created a rug with a very high pile that was very dense, more like a Rhea rug than a latch hook rug, using Rhea wool, which is thinner. And
Okay.
100% wool. Man, that was a great project. Remind me about that, Karen. Make sure you send that in. I'd really like that. Um, Purple Beck said, if I'm good at latch hooking, I'll make my own designs for my small business. Fantastic. And if it's cool with you, I can send you the designs to put in the book. That is cool with me. But in the meantime, send the designs so we can look at them, because we do our gallery night once a month. And we definitely want to see what designs you're working on, right? Be sure to keep us updated on your designs and how your business is growing, because we always like to know what's going on, what's available, and what other people are working on for designs. Absolutely. So if you all, I saw a couple of you asked about submitting for Magpie, right? Just for Magpie. Magpie Times Magazine at gmail.com is a great place to send questions or submit stuff, and I will answer you right back. Or Shannon, right, who's like functioning as editor with, she's right in between Judy and I, working articles through, telling you if the photo is too small. We're running into that a lot lately, so we're putting her in place as a safety, so none of the photography is too small. I know when people submit it, sometimes you don't know, right? I mean, not everybody knows all this technical stuff, but Shannon is going to be in the middle, starting on issue number 3, to be able to come back to you and say, listen, we need you to come back to us. Same thing, a slightly bigger photo. If there's any problems, right, you can always ship it. We can photograph it and ship it back. There's lots of ways that we can solve problems, but try to get used to doing Magpie Times Magazine at gmail.com, because then me, Judy, and Shannon look at the query and are able to file it and respond immediately between us. So um, let me just make sure there's no more questions. Denise, oh, good to see you. Is there a way to send you a pic of a latch hook rug I made? I sent an email to Magpie Magazine. Nope, Magpie Times Magazine. Magpie Times Magazine. Try it again. And if not, ribbon candy hooking at gmail.com. Either one will work fine. They should, but Magpie Times Magazine. And Lena just brought up the Sears and Roebuck catalog. Was that a thing in Canada? The Sears catalog?
Sears
Yeah, yeah.
and Eaton's.
And Eaton's, of course. You had that big department store too.
Yeah.
We didn't have one Macy's did that for a while. Like in the 80s and 90s, sent out a big magazine that was pretty inspiring. Every department was represented in there, and it was so much fun. Okay, I think I'm caught up. Let's keep going.
Okay. One of the articles that Rebecca Martin put in, this was her gnome article. My God, that was cute.
Oh my God.
But
Yeah.
a sweet, and the woman, she was pretty smart. She wasn't bricky ass. She told the kids, "I've got something for you," and 80 gnomes went over to the backyard. So anyway, that was really cute.
That's so cute.
So again, just another example of how you just feel like, I feel like I know Rebecca anyway because she's been on with you a few times, but
She's great.
really cute story.
Oh.
But what another piece that I got out of that was her first gnome set.
Yeah.
And how she revisited the pattern, and we can all do that. And I'm kind of getting to that stage too. So then she revisited the pattern because I think she punched it, Deana.
Yep, she did.
And I guess that's another thing that came out of the article because, I've done a lot of rugs in my time, and some of them the dogs and cats got to. And I now I just throw them in the washing machine. I figure I've lost it one way or the other. So,
Yeah.
but back in the day, I just threw them out, which I shouldn't have done. But I kept patterns.
Yeah.
And I just thought, what a great idea to go back and revisit those patterns 20 years later and hook them again.
Absolutely.
So I thought that was a really neat article.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I'm having the same sort of thing as I'm trying to clean up my studio a little bit because it got so out of control and crazy. And I'm finding patterns that I never finished, or I only put on backing and I never really started, or I just, spent 2 hours on it and that was it and it's not done. It is interesting to think about revisiting patterns and projects. The thing is always, don't you have that thing where you have so many projects that you've started, even if it's just like you sketch something out? Do you ever get panicked that you're not going to get to it all? Do you ever have that feeling of outright panic? Like, I'm looking at my journals of stuff. How am I ever going to do all the stuff that I meant to do? It's really, I don't know what to do about that. I'm not at a bucket list place in my life yet where I'm like, well, I'm at peace with not doing any of these 100 things. I still want to do all of them,
Right. Lately, the thing that I've done, because when we moved, I had to clear out some stuff. I just had to. There was no point in bringing it over to the new house. But there was a lot of stuff that I just put in a tote, and now I've eventually gotten to it. So you're right. I have these projects that I've started. I've even had projects that I've done all the color, I picked out the yarn and the wool for it.
Yeah.
And I found it. I found all this woolen yarn and thought, I could have used that for something else anyway. But I did buy these little pouches from Amazon.
Oh yeah.
And I just started with a set of 20.
Yep.
And they'll fit in my filing cabinet.
Yeah.
So
those
those
plastic zippy ones.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'll fold them up.
Yeah.
If there's space, I'll even put in like a little note.
Yeah.
Because that helps me too, because I do like to write as well.
Yeah.
So I might write a little note with it now and say, this is what I intend to do with it. And at least it's filed away.
True. That's a good system. I'm glad I asked.
And I don't have that. I don't have that fear as much. Like, if I don't get to it, like I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because every day a new idea comes. I try to sit on my, even today I started drawing up another pattern, and I thought, no, you've got to go back and finish these things first. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm glad I asked, because that's a great system. I have those pouches too. I have tons of those pouches, and I tend to, but they're so great, and they're cheap, and they're big.
And it's better than a bag, isn't it?
Oh, it's way better than a bag. And then you can zip them, so there's no bugs or anything going to be attracted to them.
Yeah.
And I can I put like color combos of wool strips and stuff in there as a reminder of what my thoughts were with color.
Yeah.
And whether or not I ever get to them is maybe not the point. The point is that they're there if the right time comes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best you can do. There's only so many hours in the day, sadly.
And I think too, like, there are days when I don't feel like doing, getting out, working on that big project or whatever. And then
So
I
true.
kind of do dig in and find something else
That's so true.
something smaller that I can finish up quickly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, I'm working on projects for the Halloween book now. It's like some of them I'm at a place where it's time to do the face and the hands or something like that.
Mhm.
And I'm like, it's not going to
Yeah, I
happen. Not today.
And it's lettering for me.
Oh,
I
right.
think this was one of the first conversations we had. Like, lettering
Yeah.
gets me.
And you do
And
so
I'm
much
doing,
lettering. You do a lot of lettering.
I know. I'm doing, poor old Lizzie.
Yep.
So I
That is lettering. Yeah.
I'm trying to settle on a color. So I kind of got slowed down
always
with her.
hard.
She's almost done.
Yep, me too. I just hooked. Let me say before I forget, Denise just said that she sent a Magpie thing to that email address and it didn't go through. So I'm going to say for now, while I'm live, it might be that I set it up yesterday and I'm supposed to finalize it or something, and I don't know that yet. So for the meantime, go ahead and send to ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com. So anything, my brand is Ribbon Candy Hooking. You can get to me through the website, or just email ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com. And then later tonight, I'll figure out, because I have been getting emails with. So Denise, are you saying the email didn't go through to ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com or Magpie Times Magazine at gmail.com? Because I'm definitely getting emails from Shannon and Judy at the Magpie one already. Let me check that one. I'm not 100% sure. I'm only 90% sure. But Ribbon Candy Hooking, I get emails all day on that. So that would make me worried, because I know that one's working. Worst case scenario, you can go to our Facebook group, which is Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club, and message me from there, right? Because I'm the admin at the top and all that stuff. You can always do that too. But yeah, I've been doing the same thing with the rug thing. So the small departure. You know, let me put the light on really quick. It got really dark in here. Hold on one second. Nobody's coming to check on me. I feel very abandoned. Normally it's like, do you want some more water, or are you alive? But today it's just like, yeah, just letting me rot in here. I've been working on this thing that has the text for the Haunted Rug Book, and as much as I love the idea of doing the text, I realized once I did it, it's not that clear, right? It's never that clear. Hooked text is, at least mine, is never that clear. So while I like this and I've been using it as the advertisement for the product, I'm working on a different cover, because that's going to drive me crazy. Text is just tricky. It's hard to get it, particularly if it's in cursive and stuff. It's hard to, it looks so charming. I really like it on your rugs, because you always do cursive, right? It always has like a lot of character. It's your handwriting.
And I have to do it big.
Yeah.
That's the only thing too. If I do writing, lots of times the rug gets bigger, because I write big anyway, I guess. But yeah.
Oh, Denise, it did go through. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying you did send it and it was a thing. Oh, that's where you sent it. I'm so sorry. It's me. It's not you. It's me. So it's totally working. I'm so sorry. It's me. I'm always anticipating problems. There's so many problems, but not with you, Denise. Thank you. I will look at that as soon as I'm off. Thank you. And I'm glad it's working, because I was thinking, what did I screw up now? We're good. Did you want to carry on? Did you have some more questions?
Well, I was just going to mention, two things.
Yeah.
There's another thing that I was going to mention to you that had come out of my brain this morning, I think. The whole conversation around designing your own patterns, or buying someone else's.
Yep.
So, for example, I started with kits.
How did you do that?
Yep.
And it was great because everything came in the kit.
Yep.
But then I gradually started drawing my own. And I went through this mindset for a while. Hi, sweetheart.
Oh, can you see her?
Yep.
Wait, you can see me?
I can see
It
you.
doesn't show it on the screen.
No, we can't see it on our screen, but there's a dog right here. Yeah, there. I can see you now.
Wait,
Sorry,
hold on.
sorry, that was distracting, Melissa.
That's pretty fancy.
Yeah, she's been making masks of cats and dogs around the clock. Absolutely
Maybe the
around.
centerpiece.
Okay.
Oh,
See
no.
what chaos you're causing?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, then you have to go. We love you, but you have to go. Yep, there she goes. Yep. And she's also got a tail on her. Isn't it too hot for this stuff, Joss? Like, seriously?
Oh, wait, look at my tail.
Yeah. Oh, she's got a... Wait, let me fan myself with that tail, Joss. Okay. There. Very good. Very good. I'm sorry, Melissa.
Oh, no. So I was just saying, so then I went through a period where I draw on my own. It's really important.
Yeah.
I should draw my own. It's kind of like the singer-songwriter thing, right? Like, do you sing somebody else's songs or write your own?
Yeah.
So then, of course, I found your page, and I found your patterns, and immediately attracted to your patterns. So then that's sort of when I started again, like I did some of yours and others,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I guess it was just a nice, relaxing reprieve for me that I didn't have to think about it, like draw it out because, you had done it or somebody else had done it. So I guess I just wonder, I throw that conversation out there. How do people feel now about that? Because I really feel at one point when I was rug hooking, the bend was more to design your own,
Yeah.
do your own.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because I know I'm not gonna be super specific, but I know that there's been a lot of talk recently. I'm not sure where it started, but I know there was a lot of talk recently about there was an artist who was saying, if you are a rug hooker at all, you should definitely be doing your own patterns, like no question about it. And I strongly reacted to that. I try not to get involved in stuff on social media, but I thought that was massive, insensitive kind of oversight to 90% of people. I have always felt like there are people who are more technical people who love the fun for them is choosing the design and maybe choosing the colors, or maybe it's a kit, but the fun for them is filling it in. And there's no shame in that. That does not diminish the artistry or your personal style that comes through as you hook it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You choosing that you loved that pattern and that's the one for you is also creative, right? So, for me, designing it has to only be for people who feel like they will explode if they don't get this thing on backing, right? If you feel like you're set up in terms of like your skill set or your innate talent to do all your own designing or some of your own designing, that's great. If you feel that pull strongly, then you should absolutely do it. But I think a lot of people don't feel that pull at all, and they love the fun of looking at their choices and picking something new and getting going on something new. I think they are absolutely 50-50 equals. And you know you have to spend your time doing stuff that brings you joy, stimulates you, makes you feel good. And the evolution of rug hooking isn't you learn it, you do someone else's pattern, you do a few more patterns, and then you do your own pattern. There is no natural evolution to rug hooking. It isn't the next thing. It's a parallel thing. I still buy commercial patterns. I don't have time to hook them, but I buy them and I love them because I think, well, this is a celebration of this person's work. I love this design that this person did. I want to hook this in the future and display it because it reminds me of this brand. I love a lot of stuff that this specific brand, whoever it is, does. And I love having that stuff. I think it's so a little bit too high horse to project any sentiment that is like, if you are really an artist or you have any kind of working proficiency at rug hooking, then you owe it to yourself. The next obvious thing is to design your own rugs. I think that is absolutely anti-logical and a little bit unkind in its sentiment.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I just find over time that the enjoyment of, well, your patterns in particular, because they're a little quirky, right?
Yeah.
And that's that's as soon as I saw some of your patterns and I thought, oh my gosh, yes, right?
Well, you and
So
me
you
are on
do-
the
I
same
think you
page
do-
with that.
What's that?
Well, you and me are on the same page. We like exactly the same stuff.
Yeah.
So that's not a surprise.
Yeah, but just so I know how it all started because I was thinking about that today when I was going to interview you. It was like, well, how did this relationship even get going? And what I remember was wanting very much to research Magdalena Briner.
Yeah.
And when I researched her, of course, your videos came up.
Yeah.
So that's where it all started.
Mhm.
I remember that.
Thank goodness for that.
Yes, indeed. But then when I saw your patterns of, the Halloween rug with the tree and, your own personal take on it. And then that's kind of where I started to evolve with mine too. It's like, okay, well, you can take the classic piece, but then you put your take on it.
Absolutely. And that is for me historically been the hardest part of designing. when putting new stuff together, and whether I'm working on Magpie or different projects, I realize that I have a huge blind spot for primitive patterns. And primitives are my favorites. But I think the thing about primitive patterns is, if we're really talking about a traditional rug hooking design, we're talking about one of maybe 100 motifs, right? You don't think of a primitive and say, oh, it's a zebra, right? You see so many primitives of there's only so many motifs that we tend to see if we're talking about primitive rug hooking and traditional,
Yeah.
not the style, but like the subject. So when I think about creating designs that are done in a primitive style that are truly primitives, I find that very hard because I honestly feel like it's kind of all been done before. And I don't like to touch stuff with a 10-foot pole that's been done before, but sometimes I have to because I have a business. So with the Halloween book, I really had to set myself up in a mindset where I thought, a few people have said it, right? And if I'm not going to like put my earmuffs on and go, I can't hear you, I can't hear you. A few people said, you really should put some primitive designs in there for not just beginners, but people who don't always want a challenge, right? Like a more complicated design. Some people, you just did a busy design, you're ready for something easier, right? You want something simpler with simpler lines. And man, sitting down and trying to do patterns that I regarded as primitive and I'll define primitive by simple lines, fairly simple lines that could be great for a beginner or someone who's just taking a break from like larger pieces. That was hard. Simple is always hard, but that was really hard because I didn't want to do things that were repetitive or that I regarded as another person's intellectual property. Some primitives I associate some subjects with like different designers through the years. I wouldn't touch those out of respect and because I love the work of that designer so much. I wouldn't tread closely to designs or motifs that I know other designers have done and done very well. And I also have that feeling of if it's already been done and it's been done very well, then I don't need to do it, right? This is the same reason that when I was a cabaret singer, I did not sing Barbra Streisand songs because why would I? Why would I set myself up for that? They've already been done perfectly and they cannot be improved upon. So, but it is funny, when we gravitate toward a specific designer, and I do it too, or specific artist or someone else's work, there usually is a personal connection and there's like a personal sort of chemistry or electricity that's like you realize it's not just the one. You realize usually when that happens, it's like, oh, I like all of this person's stuff, and then it's very, very exciting to dig in. So it's always difficult as a designer to do that stuff because I like that stuff of mine the best too. But I also feel like I have to be there for people who don't necessarily like that stuff about me. I'm trying to sell stuff, right? And it's hard.
I know.
It's hard to work in that vein. It's
Yeah.
really hard. But
Yeah.
Magpie is good for that because I'm forced to do stuff that I would not normally do in the normal course of things, design.
And one thing that I was going to touch on at the beginning, and I forgot, but you mentioned it. But that whole notion that you were the first person, Deana, that I ever came across that asked for other people's work. So I was blown away by gallery night.
Yeah.
I was blown away the night that you used some of my stuff and you messaged me and said, can I put this into the like, I'll never forget that feeling of being somebody, wanting to put my work up. And, but that's something that you have brought forward for me anyway. Maybe there are others who do, Deana, but you are the first person that I saw do that.
Thank you. That matters a lot because that was a gamble, right? That whole the ribbon candy hooking philosophy that we would celebrate and look at other people's work and that people would be allowed to post in the Facebook group Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club the work of other people and make the attribution that it was someone else's design, right? Even though we're not selling on that page, right? More than 99% of the images you see are not my brand. That was a gamble going with that philosophy, but I honestly felt like this being such a tiny craft that I had to try to do the thing that I thought was the higher ground and say, listen, here we're going to talk about all of it, right? All of it. And if we talk about all of it, right, other people's work, my work and other people's work too, then there is always the chance that there's going to be a big audience for that. And if there's a big audience for that, then we might have more hookers, right? It was just the chance. Instead of doing the scarcity mode thing and thinking, well, if I put other people's designs on there, or if I have a show and I talk about like a different brand, which I do a lot on the show, people might go to their brand and do their shopping. And you know, they always do. Like when I do have another person on the show, it's like I don't get sales for days after, and then I'll get an email from the person saying, "Oh, thank you so much. I've done so well this week." But you know, I honestly believe it all comes out in the wash, right?
Yeah.
It's a pay it forward. It's the right thing to do, because if we love rug hooking, we love rug hooking. You don't just love my rug hooking. You love everybody's rug hooking, right? So why shouldn't we look at it all together, right? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's not a business approach, and I get that, and I felt that, but in the long run it paid off, because 4 years into it, now my business is not floundering, right? I'm not bouncing stuff left and right and getting my card declined when I'm at IHOP getting the kids breakfast, right? I'm a little bit past that. I mean, I still might get declined now and then, but
That's because you forgot to put a check in.
maybe it's less common than it was like 6 months ago. So I really feel like with everything in place, like the books, the magazine, and just sticking with the philosophy of talking about other brands and saying other names and including other people in it's the broader celebration of this craft, not making it about me. I really believed that it would pay off, and I still think it will pay off even more as time goes on.
Oh, I think so. And I think what takes time, as you
Yeah.
know, is people figured you out in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah,
Because, as I said, it was your patterns that attracted me
yeah,
to you. But then all of a sudden, watching these videos, and again, including everybody, saying everybody's name. My
Yeah.
God, I'd stand there and wait for you to say, "Good morning, Melissa." But I mean, that's very nice. Um, that personal acknowledgement is very nice. It must be draining sometimes. It would be for me because I'm an introvert. I think you're more of an extrovert, maybe.
I definitely am.
But sometimes I think, oh, I don't know how she keeps the energy going. That's all.
It's like what's it called when you do when you run small amounts, right? Sprints, right? It's sprints.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I am exhausted when I come off live shows, and not necessarily this one, because I'm not flipping through slides, and there's no, it stresses me out immeasurably when stuff is happening with technology. That kind of thing gets me more than anything. It happened when I taught the last hit or miss class, because I had just the other day on, I guess Thursday, I had an update. I didn't know I had an update, and all the buttons were in different places. That stuff stresses me out, exhausts me, wears me down, freaks me out, and shakes me more than I can show when I'm live or teaching or whatever. But less and less as time goes on. But I have to say, doing the shows gives me a huge amount of energy, because there's so much stuff that goes on in my life. I'm sure it's apparent from time to time. Some of it's good, some of it's very bad, some of it's crazy. I'm often off the rails in a huge way, and sometimes I think it's more apparent than other times. But I try to show up regardless of how I feel, because I know from experience that I could be literally crying and fixing my makeup because I'm having some wacky Mars Venus meltdown, like with my husband or whatever, and then I have to be live 10 seconds later. But I know from experience after all these episodes that once I log on and I see my friends' names popping up, it is like waves washing over. And whatever happened right before the show, like bad news on a credit card, or I'm in trouble with something, or something big, whatever happened 5 seconds before the show started, by the time I get to the end of the show and everybody said hello and we've talked about stuff that we all love, it's actually hard for a few minutes to remember I'm like, oh, I know something bad happened, I have to deal with it immediately. Sometimes it's hard to remember because it's such a reset, being able to log on and do these shows together. It's an amazing gift from someone like me too, who's super prone to being depressed and bipolar and wildly dynamic. Being accountable and sitting down and running the show, I think has saved me in a lot of ways, because without this having to be at a certain place at a certain time, I don't know, I don't have a great history of um, having a healthy baseline happening.
Right.
So this has been, yeah, it's exhausting sometimes, but overall, it's been a huge positive thing for me.
And you went from, I can't remember in your timeline, when you came back
Yeah,
to the United
yeah.
States, you had your two children.
No, over there, I had them in the Netherlands.
I mean,
Yep,
okay,
I
so they
already
were
had them.
already
Yep, I had them
they were
in
already
this world.
born.
Yep.
But did you um, work outside the home in the Netherlands?
No, no, I went
No.
from having a great job as a tour guide, right? I made more money than I can spend. Not that that's a measure of success, but it was a nice perk, in traveling all the time, to living in the Netherlands. I mean, I traveled until the week before I had Teddy. I was still touring. And I was like number one at the company. I was the guide who chose my tours first. I had lots of benefits and everything. I'd built a life I was a success in my job. And then when I had Teddy and I was living in another country, everything changed, and I couldn't work anymore. And people were like, "Oh, you should give tours of the Netherlands." And I was like, I was already not a huge fan of the Netherlands, although I love it. I was born there too, and I was not a huge fan. And my special area of expertise is like revolutionary and early American history. So that's not transferable. It's not like it was architecture or whatever. So that wasn't a possibility. I went from being super successful as a grown-up person to living in another country where I didn't speak the language, and having two kids back to back,
Yeah.
and taking language classes, and riding around on my bicycle in the rain. And it was really hard to find something that could be mine. And I tried writing, and I published a little bit. I was working for I published some stuff with the BBC magazine Homes and Antiques over there, but it was bits and pieces. It was like piecing stuff together, and there was no overarching plan or formula. And people like me who have things with depression and stuff, when you don't have a game plan for like the next day or the next month or the next 6 months, that's a dangerous place to live, because then you create crazy projects and busyness, right? And that's exhausting.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a bad time. And then of course when we came back here, after everything kind of imploded there and I truly lost it, I didn't have a job, and I couldn't be a tour guide because now I've got two little kids, and there's still nothing for me to do. So it was like I changed location and I had better weather, and I was back home again. But
With your family.
yeah, near the family, but yeah, but still nothing that was mine. Nothing that I could
Yeah.
say like, look, this is a measure of me. Look what I made. I hadn't done anything besides produce children, and lots of people have uteruses. So I mean, it was kind of like, congratulations, but I mean, this isn't a really unique accomplishment. So it was great to be able to fall into this and to
Right.
make this my own. It came at exactly the right time, and it was the perfect thing for me to be able to dig into, and to be able to, after so many years of just like emptiness, it was like I was able to, with rug hooking and setting up a business, use all my art history background,
Yeah.
my practical art and fine art background, even my tour guide years of learning all the great history and all the great stories, and all the storytelling that I used to do. I could do it now with my rugs, tell story with my rugs. That's,
Yeah.
I think, the ones you like the most. So it was like everything was suddenly validated, and somehow the universe, spun things around in this incredibly lucky way, where none of the stuff, including the bad years, was wasted. Suddenly, it all meant something, and I could see that it was for something. And yeah, talk about a headstand, Yeah.
And certainly that's part of the interest for me too, is the historical aspect of
Yeah.
everything, and the artists that we talk about. That certainly is extremely interesting too. So there's lots of books ahead for you too, I would think.
There's
Deana.
lots of books ahead, and yeah, I'm at the best place I can be at this moment. I'm busier than ever, but somehow I'm managing it better, right? Because the I feel like the audience is there. I feel sure about that. We're hitting like unprecedented rug hooking numbers in all of the groups and the YouTube, on Facebook, everywhere. We're hitting numbers that I didn't think we broke through the glass ceiling. So now I have this sort of built in, I can fall back on the belief that the rug hookers are there, and if they're not rug hookers, they do other arts, and they're at least interested in listening.
Yes.
So the audience is there, and as long as that's the case, and as long as people keep submitting stuff to Magpie, there will still be Magpies, and this will keep going on whether I put in 5 articles or 1 article, right? It's still going to go on because everyone else is putting in articles. Yep. It's it has momentum. It's on the rails, and all my other book projects are the same thing now. The Halloween book, right before the show, Shannon wrote and said we are at like 89 original patterns, and I'm hooking like 5 of those. So it means other people are hooking the rest. It means that says to me there's a lot of people who, once a project is announced, they want to participate and be a part of it, and it is 100 times of a better project, or at least 89 times better, with that many more people putting their stamp on the book as well. So now I feel like whether it's a magazine or a new book project, with so many people participating, we can do anything. I mean, we can put out, in theory, 2 or 3 books a year if I really get it together. And it won't be mostly my work. It'll be mostly your work out there. But if I can sort of be the architect who cobbles together the idea and then prints the book, we can all be working on projects that we love and picking and choosing different projects, getting our work in print, seeing other people enjoying and celebrating the stuff that we do. Yeah, I mean, I see this as an endless lottery machine that just keeps paying out, like a triple cherry every time, you know. Whatever project it is, there's going to be a couple thousand people who want to participate, and that's fantastic.
And I think your love is drawing patterns.
That is my love. That is my love.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, I like hooking too, and sometimes I can go months without drawing patterns because I'm just not feeling it.
Yeah.
But sometimes I sit down with a cocktail napkin or something, and it's like, can I have 10 more cocktail napkins because the ideas are like this? Sometimes not. But my philosophy is always, if I feel like hooking, it's more like motor, repetitive, and then I think other things, or I watch series of shows and catch up on shows and stuff. Sometimes that's perfect for me, but other times I don't feel like hooking for ages, and I'm just working on designs, and then that works. So you should always do what you feel like, right? You should never do what's in front of you. You should do what you feel like, because it's supposed to be fun. Yeah. One other person wants to say hi.
Hi, Teddy. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
It is nice to see him. He's on sleepovers like every night lately. He's such a cool guy in the neighborhood. 2 nights in a row. I'm hardly ever seeing him.
Yeah. Except for today, of course.
Yes, we spent some time together. We went to pick up some rug hooking stuff that somebody posted on Facebook today. So we went and had a little road trip and met a lovely lady and picked up some beautiful swatches and spoons.
Maybe a new house too.
Yeah, you never know. You never know what the future brings.
The house was on sale. Or no, not on sale yet.
Maybe. Let me catch up for 1 minute. I know we're getting really late. Let me catch up for 1 minute. Love you too. Okay. I want to just say sorry again about misunderstanding about the stupid email thing. That was totally me. But if you're working at someone else's your thing, that's cool as well. Absolutely. If you're working on someone else's pattern or project, and it's a kit, it's someone else, and you are loving doing it, that is fantastic. What's better than that? You're working on something and you're loving doing it. That's it, right? There's no other questions. There's no other implications. There's no judgment. That's exactly right. That's exactly what you should be doing. Oh, Kathy, good to see you. Or maybe using a commercial pattern and changing it a little bit to suit your taste or your family. And you're okay
with that too. Like that's another thing that's come out is.
Oh, I love that. Nothing makes me more happy than seeing someone like adjust one of my patterns to be more for them. Because I think then it's our project together. It's not just me, and more me. It's like now it's you too, and it's twice as interesting. I love that. And yes, I remember that someone can lawsuit you, so go with the. Yeah, you know, I as far as lawsuits and stuff, I don't know, but I do know. I'm not I can only speak for my own brand, but I do know that there are some brands that don't like it when you alter a commercial pattern. They like it to be exactly the way that it was drawn. I don't know if legally anything could ever be done about it, because once you buy a pattern, right, and the supplies, and you spend all that money and you spend all your time making it. Um, Certainly for your own house or your own wall or whatever, it should be able to be exactly how you want it. Copyright and design different, right? Different, but altering a pattern should, whether the designer likes it or not, whether it makes them feel like they are not like you know, the utter god of all things and perfect, that's a personal problem that really has nothing to do with what you can do with your own project at home. Let's see. I agree. Gallery night is always stunning. Gallery night is always stunning. Speaking of which, I think. Do you think? What do you think, Melissa? Is next week gallery night? Are we there yet?
When did we do it last?
Well, we have now. Last week, I think I was with Naomi. Was I with Naomi? No, I wasn't with
Yeah.
Naomi. No, I think 2 weeks ago I was with Naomi. I think last week I can't remember what I did, but I feel like I was by myself in here.
Did we not? I know you did some, which was really fun too, by the way. The
Oh,
showing
yes.
us with your tissue paper.
Yes,
Or not
yes,
tissue
the
paper.
sketching. That was last
Yeah.
week. So it was 3 weeks in between. So next week is gallery night. Right. So gallery night's coming up next Friday. So yeah. Everybody should be sending stuff in to ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com, and it's titled gallery night, not Friday night, not coffee time, right? Just gallery night, just so I know. Sorry, I didn't mean to make that detour.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm caught up with the thread, Melissa.
Okay. Well, are we
Think you-
getting tired?
Yeah, I think you did. Well, no, but I think you did an amazing job, and I think you brought up such good things about this magazine, and you know, there's been a lot of sales for both issues, so I'm super happy about that. This is my piece on the back of this
Love
one.
that.
Since
That
we-
was a nice write-up too.
Thank you.
about
I
the
really
fairies.
like that. That one I won't spend this much time on another piece. That's for sure. Because that killed me this month for everything. Right. This is like an enormous, giant, big piece. But I really enjoyed doing that. It was a lot of fun. So I'm already at the place with Magpie where I did the first cover. Judy did the second cover. The next cover should be mine. But I've already,
I saw that.
yeah, I've already given. I don't want every other cover to be mine, right? Because then it's again too much like me, and more me. So I gave the cover idea to Kelly Smith, who's
Yeah.
got a small brand. She's amazing. She's getting some traction. She's a lot of fun. She did the next issue, and I can't speak for Judy, but at least with my issues, I probably won't do a ton of covers, right? Because I have my other books too. I'm always going to look for other people and giving shout outs to other people with or without brands who might want to do covers and
Right.
pieces and stuff like that. So, yeah. So, small pieces, big pieces, feature articles, little write ups,
Poems. I love the poetry. There was a few
poems,
poems.
recipes.
I know there was one piece there too, Deana, somebody had done with the spiders, and she had seen a spider web with flower petals in it,
Yep.
and that was gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah. Judy Hassler. She's fantastic. This one here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is beautiful. She actually brought this. She flew from Michigan to do a class with me in Connecticut a couple months ago. She was so sweet. She watches this. Huge shout out, Julie. It's great to see you. I hope I see you in October. But I was so interested in this clothesline piece that she did. It's a beautiful one pager, and it has a beautiful poem on it. And yeah, she's working on some more projects too. But what a great idea, and what a different. It reminded me a little bit of macrame. You know, the feel of it.
Yes.
It's-
Or the, the crayon activity that people do. They'll melt the crayons, and the crayon drips down. That's what I thought of too.
I think we could use some of that. I think we could use some of that in the magazine, the crayon stuff, right? That would be really good. I love this article too. I have to say, my friend Barbara Cornish, the woodman.
Yeah, that's
right?
sweet.
Yeah, because this is like a family business for her woodmans in I think it's Essex. It's Essex. It's
Essex.
Cape Ann. Yeah, and she wanted to do one of the fluffies, one of the Maud Lewis fluffies. So I put the cat in front of Woodman's, and she's another person. Coincidentally, Barbara Cornish and Mandy Cornish both have the same last names, but different countries, not related. But they both do so much stuff for Magpie and with the brand, and they hook up stuff so quickly and make it their own. This one came with the recipe for the fried clams too, which I
Yeah.
thought was extra adorable.
That's the last article, isn't it?
That's that is before the patterns all come, because
Yeah.
the patterns all come after that at the end. And I like this so much better. So I've already given the feedback to, oh, that's Deborah's there. I've already given the feedback to Judy. Please keep the
Yeah.
patterns inside the magazine, right?
Totally. Great idea.
Yeah, and we figured out with the second issue being another 20 or 30 pages long, it does cost more for us to print, and we didn't put up the price, but it all comes out in the wash, right? Because if I have to print stuff out of my home printer, that didn't work out that well either.
Oh, that's true.
So yeah.
And plus, it took time for you to fold it all, right?
I mean, I was crying the whole time I made the patterns for the last one. I cried for like 2 days straight. I was so stressed. My hands were shaking. I was like, let's never do that again. Like, never. Just put him in the magazine. And we've all got enough problems. But yeah, super fun and coming along so well. It's such a great idea to talk about it. Did you want to say anything else? I don't want to cut you off.
No, I'm good. I've talked a lot for me.
Well, I so appreciate you suggesting doing this. It's like, as we say, this is like the second issue. We're headed to the third. And it never occurs to me to talk about Magpie Magazine. I'm always looking for other books and things and it never occurs to me to cover this stuff. So it was a great stroke of genius and really kind and generous of you to spend time doing this here.
No, I enjoyed it too.
Yeah, super fun. And
I
everybody...
said it's a lot different than interviewing people at the Santa Claus parade.
It is different, isn't it? It is different. Oh, I'm just making sure we caught all of the... Yep. I'm just catching... And everybody, I was reading your comments, and I was reading them all. I was just adding ones that had to do with the conversation, but I'm always reading your comments and enjoying. Just before we head out, I just have to say, like along the lines of what you were saying earlier, that about like liking to get a shout out when we're doing the live show and stuff, and to be acknowledged where you are. Yeah. When I first started doing the show in the first months, I know I've told this story before, but I think it's like prophetic and important. I went to a few hook-ins, and it was like Coven of Witch style settings, and repeatedly people were saying to me, I tried to watch your show, but I just couldn't stick with it because you were like saying hi to people and you were like chatting with people in the thread, and I just couldn't stick with the show. And there was that moment at the beginning of the show, like in the first 6 months, where I tried to stop. There was a few episodes if people were binge watching, and I just went in and said good morning to everybody, and I'm very happy that you're here, and let's get down to the content of the day. Today we're doing this. And it just felt so wrong and anonymous to not, people logging on, taking the time to log on to be together, and for me to just ignore them just seemed so wrong. So we will never, whoever that alienates, I'm just okay with that at this point. That's going to be okay for me. So everything that we do, in my mind, as a brand, we have to do it together. You're not going to see any projects from me where you just see my stuff in it, hooked by me. You'll never see that from me. Everything we do has to be together, because we have to share our good energy, our good ideas, our unique talents and expertise, right? Because if not, what's the point of calling ourselves a community,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So jump in where you can. Jump in with Magpie. Jump in where you can. Send stuff in where you can. You can start with gallery night next week, right? ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com. Send stuff that you're working on. Send ideas and projects. Send stuff that you're struggling with. All of it. We'll hash it all out on gallery night.
And I can guarantee you that when you send your stuff into gallery, that's another thing I love about you, Deana. She will give it her all and spend the same amount of time on everybody's piece.
Yeah.
How much we appreciate that.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's piece has merit. Nobody's ever sent me a piece that has like no merit, There's always positive things to pull out and say, and we have to say them to each other because we don't always get to see each other. We have to say the good things out loud to each other, right? I mean,
Yes,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. All right, you want to say goodnight with
Where's
us?
the masking tape?
I don't know where the masking tape is. I thought she wanted to say goodnight.
Oh, good night.
Thank you.
Oh,
She's looking for
a
masking
shout out
tape.
to you, Joss. Your
Yeah.
little cartoons
Her tail, I think, looks like her tail ripped. Oh, and her
Okay.
cartoons.
in the
Is it?
magazine.
No, sorry, I'm wrong. It's just fringe. No, you're right. A shout out to you, Joss, because Joss is putting in a regular feature. Jossie, what's the name of your character called? The cartoon?
I never made a cookie.
Are
Oh,
you?
Hazel Hookie?
Of course, Hazel Hookie.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't know where it is though. Is it with
Is
the?
that the back?
Oh,
with the
there it is. It's
puzzle?
with the crossword puzzle. Every issue, Joss puts in a comic strip about Hazel Hookie. She does this herself, like on the computer.
I love the look on Hazel's face in the second panel.
Well, the whole strip is about Hazel finding her purpose, right? She came up with the idea. She's
You
been
did.
illustrating it. No, you did. You can't. You did the inanimate objects thing.
Oh, I thought you meant like the idea of the comics.
No. But yeah, be looking out for the third installment of Hazel Hookie. I think she's about to meet. Who's the next character who's coming in? Petra Punch or something like that?
Yeah.
Perfect.
To be
Love it.
continued.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right, Deana,
Melissa, it was so
Uh,
nice.
get some rest tonight.
You too. It was so nice being with you, and we'll be together
Same.
again soon. Everybody, I'll see you on Monday for coffee time at 11 summer hours, 11 Eastern Standard Time. And in the meantime, be sending your stuff in for gallery night. If you're interested in working on the Halloween book that is called The Haunted Rug, I have a few patterns, right? Because I did another wave of patterns. I have about 6 patterns that I am absolutely desperate to have done. And I'm very happy to send those patterns out on the backing of your choice. There is no expense. Just make sure you get it done by sometime in September and give me a good photo of it so I can include it in the book. Meanwhile, the tickets for the event, the Haunted Rug book, Melissa, you will be there with us in the Berkshires, right? You will be with us.
I've seen a lot about Norman Rockwell these days.
Oh gosh, yeah, I'll definitely be hitting the Norman Rockwell Museum. I'm going to work out something with them too. But we have an event coming up on October 20th in the Berkshires, which is the western part of Massachusetts, at the Red Lion Inn in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. And on October 20th, we are having a book launch and hook-in, and it will include 5 vendors, including Melissa, coming all the way from Canada. And I'm going to put up a display wall, so anyone who wants to display their rug that's actually in the book, I'll have all of those pinned up for the event. That ticket went on sale at Ribbon Candy Hooking today because it also comes with tea sandwiches and swag, right? It's like a ticket event. I think the ticket is $55 for the event. I think the book is $35. I separated the two things because I thought not everyone who comes to the event wants to bring books home in their suitcase. So I separated the event. You can now pre-order the book, sign up for the event, or sign up for the event with the book. Whether you come to the event or not, of course I will sign the book before I send it to you. That product is new as of this afternoon. So be thinking about there's still time to participate. If you would like to see your work get published, send me an email at ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com and let me know if you're interested in a Halloween/autumn pattern. I would love to have something of yours in the book, right? Make it absolutely complete. And otherwise, I will look forward to seeing you on Monday for coffee time at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, Melissa, huge shout out and thank you for tonight. I
My
love spending
pleasure.
time with you. I can't wait to spend time with you in person.
Yeah.
And we will see you all soon.
Okay.
Have a great night, everybody.